Welcome to Just a Minute. My name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but also to welcome to the show 4 talented and excited performers who are going to show their skill with words and knowledge, and they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary, and seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Greg Proops. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep the score, and she will blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And once again, I'm going to ask the 4 players to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And we're going to begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, oh, a nice one. How I like my coffee. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I like my coffee the way I like my women, in a cup. And the thing about coffee is it can be hot and sweet. Thank you, Greg, that was a good laugh. Hot and sweet, and... Oh, I've repeated hot and sweet.
Sue, you
challenge. A repetition of hot.
Yes.
Yeah, and sweet.
And sweet, right. So, Sue, a correct challenge. Got him with 51 seconds to go on How I Like My Coffee, starting now.
I like my coffee the way I like my women, freely available and cheap. Failing that, I'll have it with 1 sugar and milky, although not a latte, cappuccino or anything frothy served by a barista, who essentially is a gentleman or lady who's trained in the art of fizzing a white substance.
Paul challenge.
Bit of hesitation.
There was a bit of hesitation.
There was a bit.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh. There was just...
I know, it's a shame that there's rules.
It's tough love, Greg.
But those are the rules of the show. That's how we play the game. Paul, a correct challenge, so you have another point. You don't have another point, you've got your first point. There are 34 seconds available on How I Like My Coffee, starting now.
I used to drink coffee when I was growing up by my mother, who used to make it the Irish way, which is very milky indeed. And for years, I thought that's what coffee tasted like. When I first tried coffee with water...
Sue, challenge.
Hesitation. And also... Not hesitation. Nicholas is pulling a sour face. I thought it was a technical...
Is it his own?
Yeah.
No.
I thought we were moving into an area of hesitation.
It was moving into that area, but I don't think it was a big enough hesitation or pause to be called a hesitation.
OK.
So I must give the benefit of the doubt to Paul. If I can redress the balance later, Sue, I will do so with you. Say,
Paul... I'm assuming that's during the show, Nicholas, or would that be... one of your special after-show redressings?
No. I'll do it after the show as well, if you like.
Very good. Oh, Mr. Nicholas.
But that's up to you. Paul, an incorrect challenge, so you keep the subject. 22 seconds available, starting now.
Now I've progressed onto filter coffee, and I do appreciate it, although you mustn't drink too much because it's very heavily infused with caffeine. Some people drink decaffeinated coffee, but I don't really see the point of that. It's a bit like drinking alcohol.
Sue, challenge.
Repetition of drink.
Oh, yes.
Yes. Sue, you listened well, and you've got a correct challenge, and you have How I Like My Coffee, and you have 9 seconds starting now.
Don't understand the concept of a skinny coffee. What's the point of drinking it if you can't have the richness of full, fat milk trickling down your chops?
Julian, you've challenged.
Repetition of milk.
Yes, you mentioned milk before,
Yes,
right at the beginning. Yes, you did indeed.
It's worth a try, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, Julian, you cleverly got in with half a second to go. And in that half a second, can you tell us something about How I Like My Coffee, starting now?
I like my coffee the way I like...
Right, so at the end of that round, Julian has 2 points because he was speaking when the whistle went. Sue's got 2 points, Paul's got 1, and Greg has yet to speak, but he's going to speak now because I'd like, Greg, you to begin the next round. Oh, chosen specially for you, I'm sure. The best thing about Hollywood. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
The best thing... What is it?
All right.
Wow. About Hollywood.
Yes.
I wanted to add another word.
Julian, you challenged. Yes, it was a...
Well, an embarrassing hesitation.
I suppose to be fair within the rules of just a minute, Julian, you have a point. And you have 59 seconds on the best thing about Hollywood, starting now.
The best thing about Hollywood is the wall-to-wall stars you might be...
Paul. I think the audience spotted it as well. Wall
Repetition
to wall,
of wall,
yes. 55 seconds for you, Paul, on the best thing about Hollywood starting now.
Some say the best thing about Hollywood is its past, and it is indeed a rich history that Hollywood has. If we look at it nowadays, the motion picture industry has lost a lot of its audiences to people who play games or watch television or surf the internet on what I believe is called a computer.
Julian challenge.
Oh, I didn't really mean to. It was
Didn't you?
a spontaneous spasm of my thumb.
I think you made the decision, Julian. And 40 seconds is still available, Paul. The best thing about Hollywood starting now.
Cecil B. DeMille is generally credited as being the first director to work in Hollywood, which was then just a simple place, an orange grove, in fact. And they happened to be there because they were planning to film somewhere. I think it was like Phoenix, Arizona. But unfortunately, it was full of snow at that time, and they were trying to make a Western. So they ended up in Hollywood. That's how the histories happen, accidents do.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of history.
Yes.
Histories.
Oh, yes.
Have an extra point.
Somebody brought out the best china. What was that noise?
Now, at the beginning you said history, and that was history as well. And you played the game a lot before, haven't you, right? 20 seconds still with you, Paul, and another point. The best thing about Hollywood starting now.
The best thing about Hollywood is the iconic Hollywood sign that sits up on the Hollywood Hills. It used to be called Hollywoodland, but the last 4 letters fell off and nobody ever bothered to replace it. Initially, it was there as an estate agent's advertisement to indicate that this land was available. Oh, land.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of land.
There was 2 lands there. Yes, and Sue, you got him with 4 seconds to go on the best thing about Hollywood starting now.
The best thing about Hollywood is everyone shares the same face, like a dolly on a bonfire, melted and perfect.
So Paul and Sue are now equal in the lead. 1 point ahead of Julian and a few more points ahead of Greg. And Julian, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is breaking things. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I'm very good at breaking things. When I was about 12, I put my foot through the dashboard in my father's Zephyr, and he called me a great steaming idiot, which offended me greatly. But as I continued to age, I broke things left, right and centre. Both of my arms, the left one, falling off a stool.
Greg, your challenge.
I believe there was a repetition of the word left.
Oh. There's general agreement amongst the punters.
Oh, yes, left, right and centre.
Yes.
Well done.
Oh.
Left, right and centre. That's
There
what
we
you
have
said.
it.
And you got his left foot. Right. So, Greg, good. You've got in. 43 seconds. Breaking things starting now.
Breaking things is easy to do. For instance, you can stumble down a hallway and break your kneecaps, or you can break the silence that
Greg, you've challenged yourself.
Wow.
Your lights come on
You're the
first.
first self-challenging panellist we've ever had.
So
I do it because it's there.
So what is your challenge, Greg?
I thought I was hesitating a little.
Well, I think that's a correct challenge. So well listened. You get a point for that, Greg, and you keep the subject. And there are 36 seconds available. Breaking things, Greg, starting now.
Many times when I was a child, I would be left alone in my room with just a toy box full of various gadgets, gewgaws, gym cracks, and tchotchkes. Tchotchke is a Yiddish word.
Sue, you challenge.
I was going to say you'd repeated chichka.
Tchotchke.
Yeah, tchotchke. That's well.
It's Yiddish.
Is it?
I know.
Yeah, it's the best thing about Hollywood. That's what we speak.
What does it mean in Yiddish?
But, Greg, it was very kind of you to explain it to us, but in doing so, you repeated the word.
I realize that now. I would have challenged myself, but I didn't have the hand on my buzzer.
Sue,
I
you had
think
a
it was singular and plural, though.
Thank you, Paul.
Yes, it
It was
was.
tchotchkes, and then sometimes a tchotchke.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is a tchotchke?
A small gewgaw.
Oh. You should have said.
Yeah. A little doodle. You know, like a thing.
Yeah. But a Yiddish thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, that's interesting. All right. 23 seconds, still with you then, Greg. Breaking things, starting... Greg, you ready? Starting now. Paul.
He lied. He wasn't ready.
Is fabricating against the rules, too?
Vegetation, yes.
Yeah. So, Paul, you got breaking things down. 22 seconds available starting now.
In India, they consider that if you can break a world record, this gives you huge esteem amongst your fellow Indians. And indeed, in that country, they have an enormous desire to prove themselves individually, to stand out from the crowd. There was one man I filmed once that has been seen many times since on YouTube, where I was actually kicking him in an area which was just outside Mumbai. And he was an extraordinary figure.
Right. That was a lovely switch, Paul, then. I know where you were kicking because I saw the film. Paul, you've increased your lead at the end of that round. Head of Sue Perkins, and then Julian, Clary, and then Greg Proops in that order. Sue, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is Robin Hood. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
Robin Hood was an English folklore hero who rode through the glen and lived in Loxley near Nottingham, where, of course, Alan Rickman was sheriff. He did awful things and made Marion blush on several occasions.
Alan Rickman did?
Yes.
Always.
Did Alan Rickman made Marion blush?
No, Robin Hood.
We introduced Alan Rickman into Robin Hood's period.
Yes,
Isn't
it was by way of a joke, which... now I've explained it's sort of fallen apart the way that sort of jokes do when put under the microscope.
Isn't that what we would call deviation?
It was what I'd call anachronism for comic effect, but if you...
So I said I would give you the benefit of the doubt.
Right.
Because I gave it to Paul last time. You can have it this time, and you keep the subject. 46 seconds, Robin Hood, starting now.
He surrounded himself with an awful lot of geezers. Friar Tuck was one, beautiful tonsure, an incredible cut with a perfect circle that exposed his bald pate. He was a round guy. He liked to fight with a staff. And also there was Little John. Hilariously, he was quite a tall sausage. And everyone roared with laughter at what an inappropriate moniker it was. There they were, dressed in Lincoln green, making campfires and slapping each other on the kneecaps, occasionally robbing the rich to give to the poor, which by then had become their trademark. He did so well at this particular form of thievery that legend spread, and up to this day we revere him as some kind of extraordinary man who could, by dint of his incredible ability to pick a pocket or two...
So Sue kept going until the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's moving forward. She's still in second place, but she's 1 point behind Paul at the moment, who's leading Julian and Greg in that order. And Paul, it's your turn to begin. How I would describe myself on a dating website. Take the subject to talk for 60 seconds if you can, starting now.
I would say I look like a younger Paul Merton. I'm very individual, a characteristic person who perhaps is miserly as well as being generous, sober, alcoholic, sincere, insincere. These are the various qualities I would put across on a computer dating site, whatever these things are. I would imagine that people that go involved in... Oh, what's that mean? Nothing.
Sue, you challenge.
I know nothing about this subject.
Hesitation.
No. Yes, it was.
Although I would have answered that personal ad had you put that in.
Yes.
41 seconds is still available. Sue, you tell us something about what you would put on, how I would describe myself on a dating website, starting now.
What I would put, what I have put, I'm 6 foot tall, blonde...
Greg, challenge.
Can we say put a bunch of times?
No.
I was a flagrant repeater.
No. Well, listen, Greg, you have 38 seconds. How I would describe myself on a dating website, starting now.
As devastatingly handsome to start with. A young Peter Sellers mixed with Michael Caine in the Ipcris file, and then later Buddy Holly during the good years.
He's had some bad years.
Julian, you challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, you got the big laugh and you paused. Julian, correct challenge. How I would describe myself on a dating website, 28 seconds, starting now.
I think the word available springs to mind first and foremost, but perky as well. And I'm not saying that I'm picky, but not everyone need apply. I like a hirsute gentleman caller to pop round. I don't know what you're looking at. He could visit me on a Thursday. I'm generally home at a Thursday. We'll just have a quiet nightie.
Sue, what was your challenge?
Repeats of Thursday.
Yes, unfortunately. 10 seconds, Sue. How I would describe myself on a dating website, starting now.
24-inch waist breasts like space hoppers. I have a winning personality, a smile that could crack a light bulb.
Paul,
What,
challenge.
inflatable?
Yeah. With horns.
With horns?
With horns. Yeah.
Extraordinary image.
Yeah.
So, Paul, what was your challenge?
Oh, I don't think I had one. Sorry.
All right.
No, I can think of
So
it.
4 seconds left for you, Sue, on how I would describe myself on a dating website starting now.
I have the sight of a sparrowhawk. No need to wear glasses, me, because my vision's so perfect that I can...
Right. So Sue Perkins is surging ahead. She's now in the lead, 2 ahead of Paul Merton and Julian, Clary and Greg Proops follow in that order. And Greg, we're back with you, and the subject is my eyesight. 60 seconds starting now.
I found when I was 7 years old that I could no longer see the chalkboard in the classroom. My teacher became aware of this as I moved closer to the...
Julian
Philly.
challenge.
Oh, hesitation
Oh,
again.
hesitation, yes.
Yes, that's
Julian,
clear as day.
Right. 51 seconds, Julian, still available. You tell us something about my eyesight starting now.
Well, I can see most things, but like everyone else, as I mature, and I am a surprising 52, I'm here to tell you. When I'm reading, I need to wear spectacles nowadays. Apart from that, my eyesight is fine, and I secretly believe that when you go into a restaurant, the menu is now printed smaller than ever it was in my vigorous youth. Not that I went to many restaurants.
Oh, Sue challenge.
repetition of restaurant.
Yes, restaurant. Oh, wait a minute. That was singular and plural, wasn't it?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
I'll have that point back.
You know, you don't get it back, you just get a point for incorrect challenge. And 28 seconds are still with you, Julian, on my eyesight starting now.
My eyesight is improving, in fact, because I prefer not to see things that clearly. It's like looking through Vaseline, which, believe you me, improves the quality of my existence. We've all tried it, don't deny. And my...
Paul, you've challenged.
Slight hesitation.
Yeah, it was a full
No,
stop.
it's outrageous, isn't it?
Very slight.
Yeah, very slight.
Bold.
Yeah.
I think it was quite definite, Julian.
Oh, right, okay.
Right. 10 seconds, Paul, on my eyesight starting now.
I've got almost perfect eyesight. In fact, I've got 19/20 vision. And it's fantastic because I was just saying... Oh, dumb.
Sue.
It was hesitation, but I think there was a beautiful joke coming.
I know.
There was going to be, like, the greatest joke ever.
Yeah. If only I could have thought what it was.
Sue, a correct challenge. You got him with 5 seconds to go on my eyesight starting now.
When the optician presents me with a board and says, could you please reel off the list of letters you see, there's not one that my eyes can...
So Sue Perkins was in speakers a whistle when gained an extra point. She's moved forward and she's still in the lead, and she's 2 ahead of Paul Merton and 3 or 4 ahead of Julian, Clary and Greg Proops in that order. Julian, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is surprise parties. Tell us something about that subject in this game starting now.
There are going to be surprise parties in every street this summer. I'm having an event in my back passage to which everyone is invited. I'm going to lay out a trestle table. There will be candy bars and sandwiches.
Sandwiches?
Sandwiches!
Do you cut the crusts off?
Yeah.
I was thinking of street parties, not surprise parties.
Yeah, you think the street parties.
Completely got it wrong.
Got it wrong.
No one noticed.
Nobody noticed.
But Sue noticed, so you challenged her.
Yes, hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes. 47 seconds are still available for you, Sue, on surprise parties starting now.
There is nothing surprising about a surprise party because you can tell from the atmosphere around your friends as the birthday approaches. When I turned 30, I was aware that my best mate was avoiding all calls and would mutter and mumble every time the incredible event loomed closer. In fact, I was told I was to do nothing. That's the first indication a surprise is coming. Don't leave the house. Why would you want to? Of course I would like to leave the domicile where I...
Oh, yes. Greg, you challenged.
Yes, I believe there was a repetition of the word leave.
Yes, you know us. It definitely
and
was.
it wasn't in the plural.
Yep.
They were not a pile of leaves.
No.
No.
A single leaf.
Greg, you've got him with 18 seconds to go on surprise parties starting now.
Surprise parties are always exciting. Who could forget the thrill of walking into a room full of people that you barely like and having them yell at you at the moment of your most vulnerable weaknesses? When I was 16, I got to quit breathing.
I know. Paul, you challenged.
Sadly, hesitation.
It was. 7 seconds, surprise parties starting now.
The biggest surprise party I ever attended was, in fact, Julian Clary, who suddenly decided to honour my career in show business by inviting everybody.
So Sue still in the lead. 1 point behind is Paul, then Julian, and then Greg. And Sue, we're back with you to begin. Oh, the subject now is sloth. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Sloth is one of the 7 deadly sins, along with envy and pride and thinking that Michael Gove is an acceptable human being. It implies a certain laziness, indolence, basking in the sun and not involving yourself in the everyday annoyances of life. I, for one, don't actually am guilty. Ow, Ruff.
Oh. Julian Challis.
Oh, a general breakdown. Let's call it hesitation.
The wiring was faulty.
Hesitation, yes. 39 seconds are available, Julian, and the subject is still sloth, starting now.
Looking round the audience here at the BBC, sloth seems to be the general atmosphere. There's the man over there with his legs crossed. I suppose you're thinking, but sloth is what's written across your forehead, as far as I'm concerned.
Paul Challis.
What else can they do? They can't do handstands. They're sitting down. That's not an indication of sloth.
Well, I decided that it is.
Oh. Well, I decided that it wasn't.
Outside.
Oh. You've changed your tune all of a sudden.
And I'm going to decide that I'm giving you the benefit of the doubt once, Paul. I'm going to give it to Julian on this occasion and say you keep the subject, Julian. At 26 seconds available, sloth, starting now.
Sloth is considered a deadly sin, but as far as I'm concerned...
Sue Challenge.
A bit of hesitation.
That was hesitation, yes. 23 seconds are still available, Sue, on sloth, starting now.
The sloth is a glorious animal with huge paws like massive mittens that are wrapped around a tree and a tail that acts almost as a 5th leg. It can hang for up to 17 days doing very little, and I know exactly how he feels, having watched daytime television for almost that long in my student days, although I somehow strangely managed to graduate.
Greg Challenge.
17 days in student days.
Oh, yes.
Oh, yes. Days, there we are. So we'll listen, Greg, and you've got in with half a second to go. I don't know why they clap that, but anyway. Sloth is two with you, and your time starts now.
The giant ground sloth.
Right, so Sue's still in the lead, just ahead of Paul Merton. Then comes Julian Clary, not far behind. Greg's not far behind. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. And the subject on the card is my 3 favourite people in the world. 60 seconds starting now.
My 3 favourite people in the world, well, obviously one of them has to be my wife, and the second one is probably Nicholas Parsons. I've been professionally associated with him now. No, he's not dead, don't worry. So there's a wave of sympathy. Don't you hear that wave of sympathy?
Yeah.
I had to break the news that you weren't dead.
No. But Sue, you challenged.
Hesitation.
I know they
No,
had
I
to.
know it was a comedic pause, so I'm being...
It was a
picky.
comedy, yes. So you've had the benefit of the doubt. Let's give it to Paul on this occasion and say, Paul, 49 seconds starting now.
I have been professionally associated with our esteemed chairman.
Sue challenge.
Repetition of professionally associated.
Oh, did I say that
Yes,
before?
that's right, yes.
Oh, I must listen to what I'm saying.
So, Sue, a correct challenge, 47 seconds now. My 3 favourite people in the world, starting now.
My 3 favourite people in the world are all Nicholas Parsons, because what you don't know is he's a triumvirate. He's a blessed trio. You never know which one you're going to get. Are you going to get malevolent, sexy Nicholas?
The good, the bad and the ugly.
Julie, your challenge.
Repetition of get.
Yes, and Nicholas, too.
And Nicholas
Yes.
as well, yes.
But you can't have too much repetition of that, I suppose. 38 seconds, Julian. My 3 favourite people in the world, starting now.
My 3 favourite people in the world are my mother, father, and Christopher Biggins. They've all been around as long as I have, peering into my pram when I was first born, cooing over me, feeding me food and milk.
Christopher Biggins did all this.
Yes. Greg, you challenged.
Did he?
I did, but I don't want to now. He said me twice, but that just seems so picky.
Well, he did it 3 times, actually.
Oh, did he? Well,
Yeah.
well, listen, Nicholas.
I'll
give you a point from over here. And I'm going to give you a complimentary tchotchke.
Greg, well, listen. 23 seconds. My 3 favourite people in the world, starting now.
Bob, Doug, Ed, Carl, Phil, John, Roman are not my 3 favorite people in the world. They're just a bunch of dudes I know. My 3 favorite people in the world are probably I would say the father, the son, and Satchel Paige, who pitched in the Negro Leagues in the United States. Now, some people might think that's a deviation, but it's not. For I study this all through...
Right, so I've just heard we have no more time to play Just a Minute. We've got time for one more round. And so as we move into the final round, Sue is still in the lead, and she's 3 points ahead of Paul Merton, and she's 4 points ahead of Greg Proops and Julian Clary, who are both creeping up magnificently. It's very close still. And Greg, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is smartphones. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Smartphones are a tool, and if you are on yours all the time, so are you. Smartphones are used by people far too often. Every time you see one walk out of a lift, they're looking at their smartphone. Smartphones are used by the government to track us wherever we go, for it's not only a smartphone, it's a microphone that listens to everything you say. It's also a camera that watches you wherever you go.
Yes, Paul.
Hesitation, sadly.
Yes, because he knew he said repeat it wherever you go. 36 seconds, Paul, on smartphones starting now.
A smartphone, I'm not really quite sure what it is. I don't own a mobile phone myself. I'm one of the few people around that doesn't seem to have one of these objects in my hand or purse or pocket. And a smartphone, I suppose, is a phone that you can rely on that can be different things that you want it to be.
Julian challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah.
Yes, hesitation. And B, 19 seconds, Julian. You tell us something about smartphones starting now.
I think smartphones are a marvellous invention. Not only can you call your beloved ones, but you can do your shopping list on it. It can speak to you nowadays, which is a relatively new invention. You can have a hair appointment if you want. It could even...
Sue challenge.
Hesitation.
No, I think it was getting close to hesitation, but didn't quite achieve it. So, Julian, the benefit of the doubt to you with 5 seconds to go on smartphones starting now.
Of course, there is a danger with smartphones getting so smart that eventually they will overtake our sensibilities.
Julian Clary brought the show to a close there. He's finished in second place alongside Paul Merton. They are 2 points ahead of Greg Proops, and all those three are trailing Sue Perkins by 2 points. So we say, this week, Sue, you are our winner. We do hope that you have enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute. It only remains me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Paul Merton, Julian Clary, Sue Perkins and Greg Proops. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle magnificently when the 60 seconds elapsed, and we are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the Minute Waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but around the world, but also to welcome to the programme four exciting, talented, humorous individuals. And they are seated on my right, Paul Merton and Gyles Brandreth, and seated on my left, Graham Norton and Alun Cochrane. Please welcome all four of them. And as usual, I'm going to ask them to speak on a subject that I give them, and they will try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard. She's going to help me with the score. She's going to blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show this week with Paul Merton. Paul, it's a strange subject, but do your best. The subject is the importance of eyebrows. 60 seconds starting now.
Oscar Wilde was rather disappointed that the sequel didn't take off as well as the importance of being earnest. The importance of eyebrows he considered to be his final work. It was a magnificent piece of fiction. It involved the young Lord Emsbury, a man born without eyebrows, who was forced to make his own way in the world. When people looked at his featureless face, they just saw a white blob. There was no way he could register surprise. They had no idea. He was the exact opposite of Joan Crawford. If you can imagine that. The importance of eyebrows are that when it's raining, it just directs the water away from your eyes down the side of your face. When we see eyebrows, we realise that they are, in fact, sexually potent signals.
Oh, Alun, you challenged.
Deviation.
Why?
Well, he says when we see eyebrows, we realise that they're sexually potent symbols. That sounds like deviation to me. Surely.
I suppose it depends on the individual.
Oh, OK.
I think it was a great try, Alan. It's lovely to hear from you, but... but
Hello, Mum.
I think it was no more bizarre than the other fantasy he was talking at the time, which was absolutely delightful. Paul, I'm going to say an incorrect challenge. You get a point for that, and there are still 15 seconds on the importance of eyebrows starting now.
If one looks at the eyebrow, one must consider that, well...
Gyles said it.
Repetition of one.
Yes.
Yes, you won. I heard some of you groan, but those are the rules of the game. And
It might be just because it's Gyles, though.
Gyles, it was a correct challenge. So you have 11 seconds. Tell us something about the importance of eyebrows starting now.
When I was up to succeed Roger Moore as James Bond, he explained to me the importance of the eyebrow is that you should raise it at those exciting moments when M is about to give you your orders.
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point. On this occasion, of course, it was Gyles Brandreth, so he's got 2 points into that round. Paul's got 1, and Gyles, we'd like you to begin the second round. Oh, a lovely historical question. Caesar. Tell us something about Caesar in just a minute, starting now.
My dog Caesar. Regular listeners will be familiar with my canine companion called Fido, a French poodle, spelt P-H-Y-D-A-U-X. Also the mongrel known as Downboy in our house. But Caesar is the dog we really adore.
Paul's own challenge.
Repetition of dog.
The dog, yes. You really dog, yes. A bit too doggy. So, Paul, the correct challenge, a point, of course, and you have Caesar, and you have 41 seconds starting now.
The importance of eyebrows for Julius Caesar cannot be overestimated. He would judge a man's character by looking at the hair resting above his eyelids. He would say to himself, can I trust this individual? I am the mighty Caesar. I've had a salad named after me. What could be much greater than this? One thinks about the Napoleon brandy. One also considers the Mussolini Battenberg cake. It seems to me that dictators throughout the ages have had foodstuffs named after them. When we think of the mighty Caesar, we see him coming to our shores. We were just simple, ignorant...
Gyles challenge.
Fourth we.
There was an overpredominance.
Yes, there was a lot,
yes.
Absolutely.
So, Gyles, you've got Caesar back with you, and you've got 7 seconds, starting now.
Veni, vidi, vici. I came, saw, conquered. That is what the mighty dictator said when he arrived at Dover and met...
So, once again, Gyles Brandreth was speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and has increased his lead at the end of the round. Alun Cochrane, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject now is stamps. Tell us something about stamps in this game, starting now.
Stamps come in both first and second class, but they each have the same picture of the Queen's head upon them, which I think is a shame, as perhaps we should have Her Majesty's face on the first class and a different picture, perhaps the royal... Wow.
Graham challenge.
Oh, repetition of first class.
Repetition
of first class. I feel bad.
Yes.
I feel evil.
Don't pity me.
Okay, yeah. You're an idiot. You're an idiot. Yeah, you're a fool.
Oh, Graham, good to hear from you. Correct challenge, a point for that.
Even I'd forgotten I was here.
There are 46 seconds still available.
Really, that many? Great. Okay.
Tell us something about stamps, starting now.
Oh, what I don't know about stamps. Let me thrill you, ladies and gentlemen. Stamps Stamps is really one of my specialist subjects. I don't want to get too technical too early. I've repeated something.
If you get too animated, you see what happens, right? Paul, the correct challenge, yes.
Yes, but it was a shame because I just wanted to hear what Graham had to say. But repetition of 2.
No, but it was a correct challenge. You get a point, and you have stamps, and you have 37 seconds starting now.
One of the world's most popular stamps when it was first introduced was, of course, the penny black. It was amongst the very first... I've said first twice.
Oh, yes.
I've said it 3 times now.
What was the challenge?
Fellow on my right said he said the word first twice.
I know he did.
Repetition is the challenge. Repetition.
It is perfectly correct, Gyles. You have 29 seconds. You have stamps starting now.
The sensual pleasure of tearing a stamp. The perforated bit across your lip. How exciting it can...
Graham, challenge.
I feel sick.
So what's your challenge?
I just needed it to stop. I didn't care how it happened, but I needed it to stop.
It's not so much a challenge as carrying out a public service.
I withdraw my challenge.
No, you couldn't. You could have had him for deviation.
Okay, deviation then.
It doesn't make everybody sick. It doesn't make Gyles sick. Anyway, so 24 seconds. Stamps are with you, Gyles. Incorrect challenge starting now.
The taste of the paste is something that I remember from my childhood. Now, of course, they are adhesive, and consequently one does not get the flavour when that little wobbly thing that hangs in the middle of your mouth goes over it. And
Alun challenged.
The wobbly thing that hangs in the middle of your mouth?
Yeah. I didn't feel able to repeat the tongue. If you'll pardon the expression.
I thought you were dampening them on your tonsils.
I thought there was a bit of hesitation
There was a bit of hesitation, Alun. Yes, you're quite right. Having got his wobbly bit out, Alun, you got him in 9 seconds to go on stamps starting now.
Apparently, you're supposed to stick the stamp in the top right-hand corner of the envelope. I've never really understood why that should be. I think if a stamp is on a letter that is heading south...
So Alun Cochrane was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point for doing so, and you didn't.
Can I just say that is officially the best bit I've ever done on Just a Minute? That 9 seconds is the most accomplished I've been on this game, so it's a real result for me, yeah.
You know how to get the audience on your side. Right, Graham Norton, it's your turn to begin.
Yes.
And the subject we got, favourite smells. Will you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
I have many favourite smells, but let me begin with the scent of the inside of a dog's ear. Have you ever sniffed that? Oh, it's lovely. Like a mixture of plain biscuit, honey, and old leather. It's just gorgeous.
Alun challenged.
I feel sick. I believe that's a legitimate challenge in this show now.
If a dog has an ear infection, it's disgusting.
Oh, come on.
Also,
it wasn't an ill dog.
I don't mean to get gross, but my dog has a bad habit of rolling in fox waste, and it stinks. You wouldn't smell her ear. It's disgusting.
That's an off day for her ear.
Alun, we enjoyed your interruption, so we give you a bonus point for that.
OK,
but,
I'll have that.
Graham was interrupted, so he gets a point for being interrupted, keeps the subject, favourite smells, and there are 41 seconds, Graham, starting now.
Hurrah! Let nations rejoice. I get to tell you about more of my favourite smells. Okay, next up, cinnamon, everyone. Oh, gosh, isn't that a terrific scent to get?
John's challenge.
Repetition of scent.
Really?
Yes.
Must I lose the subject?
Not necessarily.
Giles, well listened. Another point to you. 28 seconds still available. Favourite smells starting now.
It's extraordinary what people do regard as their favourite smells. The novelist Smollett, I think, in his novel Tristram Shandy, has an extraordinary scene where a chamber pot is produced.
Paul challenge.
Deviation. Wasn't Tristram Shandy written by Lawrence Stern?
Correct.
The erudition displayed on this show is amazing, isn't it?
I'm surprised myself. I must have been listening at some point when I was at school.
So well listened and well spotted. 18 seconds, another point to you, Paul. And the favourite smells is with you starting now.
A kebab, oh, no.
Gyles.
Well, a hesitation.
Yes, it was a
Yes,
hesitation, right?
absolutely.
16 seconds, Gyles. Back with you. Another point. Favourite smells starting now.
In the kitchen, it is the baking smells that I adore. Opening the oven, and there is the scone rising gently, and from it emanates the most wonderful, nostril-enhancing delight, combined with the biscuit when that is coming towards the barrier.
At the end of the round, Gyles has got another point for Speaker's Whistle when has increased his lead ahead of Paul Merton, Alun, Cochrane and Graham Norton in that order. Alun, Cochrane, we're back with you to begin, and the subject now is graffiti. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
Graffiti is often thought of as a young person's problem, but actually, here at Radio 4, after live events, graffiti is a huge difficulty that they have to face, but it's of a different generation's graffiti. It says things like, you know, George Robertson is on drugs, brackets, mostly prescription for his sciatica, close brackets. I just realised I'd done that as well. I thought I might have got away with it, but no.
Gyles.
Repetition of brackets.
Oh, yes, brackets, right. Gyles, you've got graffiti now. 37 seconds starting now.
Alas, poor Kiroi, I knew him backwards. Pinocchio is a swinger. No arms for the Venus de Milo. These were the graffiti of my childhood. Down with all Italians also was seen on the wall. Horrible graffiti in its own way. Nowadays, of course, you could sign a petition on, indeed, a piece of furniture over there if you really objected to it. But I find spraying...
Graham challenge.
What the hell is he talking about?
I think the audience applause endorses the fact.
So there's some sort of deviation going on
there's
there.
some sort of deviation.
He's having some sort of breakdown.
So again, the benefit of the doubt to you, Graham. 10 seconds. You tell us something about graffiti starting now.
Graffiti used to be seen as a form of vandalism, which of course is awful and I believe a crime. But now graffiti has been...
Paul Town.
Was there a slight hesitation there?
A slight one, but not enough to take the subject over, no. So, Graham, you've still got it. Another point to you. Well, you've always had it, but you've got... you've got the subject still. And you've got only 1 second left. Graffiti starting now.
Nowadays, the galleries... Grumpus...
So, Graham getting more points. He's moving forward. He's now in second place behind Giles Brandreth. Graham, it's your turn to begin. The subject is my problems with this show. There are 60 seconds starting now.
I have many problems with this show, but probably my greatest one is that I just know too much. I am extremely well informed on a vast range of subjects, so when I'm given a mere minute to discuss something, gosh, that is difficult. I wonder if I've said that before. Anywho, on I go.
What was that you said? Anywho, how I go?
Yeah, I don't know. Charles Brandreth is catching. That's all I'm saying.
Paul, you challenged.
Yes, he did hesitate.
Oh, he did, definitely. Going after what he said. I'm not surprised.
Did on I go, and then he stopped.
Yeah, that's right.
Anywho.
He was trying to work out what he said.
Anywho.
35 seconds are still available, Paul. My problems with this show starting now.
I don't have any problems with this show.
I'd like to give the audience a round of applause for a point for their round of applause, but shall we give it to Paul, because he got such a lovely reaction from the audience. He deserves it. Right, a bonus point to Paul. You had a correct challenge, Graham, and you had the subject, and you had 33 seconds. And we're back with you. My problems with this show starting now.
One of my other problems with the show...
Alun challenge.
I thought you told us all of your problems with this show earlier.
No. I said my main problem.
Oh, okay.
He's so well educated, he can't help but talk for a minute on any subject that he's given.
That's right, yeah, I take it back.
That was the main problem.
That's the main problem.
And I'm going on to minor problems.
Oh, okay, my apologies.
An incorrect challenge, Graham. Another point, 31 seconds. My problems with this show starting now.
One of the other problems... I did. Oh, yes.
We have had one before.
Yes, we have had one, yes. Paul, a correct challenge this time. 30 seconds. My problems with this show starting now.
I don't have any problems with this show.
I can't give you 2 bonus points for the same statement, but Gyles, you've got in again. My problems with this show, 28 seconds, starting now.
My problems with this show are entirely connected with the physical attractiveness of the audience that comes to watch it in person. The erotic charge within the room is so great that it becomes almost impossible for me to concentrate on the business in hand. I'm feeling...
Alun, you challenge.
I feel sick.
Well, that's another repetition. You said that before.
In fact, yes.
Yeah. So, have you got a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
No. I just thought it was probably best to release the valve of erotic tension that Gyles was creating in the room.
So, I'm afraid it's an incorrect challenge.
OK.
Gyles, you still have the subject. You have 12 seconds. My problems with this show starting now.
My only real problem with this show is that it comes to an end. And then what does one do on a Monday evening or a Sunday morning? Instead of listening to Just a Minute, one is lost with repeats of Aled Jones.
So, Gyles Brandreth was again speakers of whistle when gained that extra point and has increased his lead at the end of that round. Paul, Merton and Graham Norton are equal in second place. Alun Cochrane's bring up a noble rear there. And... Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject now is Wales. Tell us something about Wales in this game, starting now.
The first time I appeared on stage in front of a paying public was at the Swansea Fringe Festival in 1981. It sounds very grand, or perhaps it doesn't. The event itself wasn't a particularly big affair. Wales is somewhere I've been many times since, and I've always enjoyed playing there. Cardiff as well has a beautiful Millennium Centre and a beautiful new...
Gyles, you spotted it first.
Repetition of beautiful.
Beautiful, yes. And 40 seconds for you, Gyles, on Wales, starting now.
The holiday in Port Talbot is one I will not forget. The sign that said, "Welcome to the Welsh Riviera," was a tad deceptive. It was August and the hailstones came down thick and fast, but with a gorgeous accent that accompanied them. They were more like cakes from that part of the country. A nice Steadford was taking place, and I climbed aboard a bus and went to the Swansea Grand, where I too have made an appearance. Miss Adelina Patty was opening the theatre at the time. Second on the bill was Nicholas Parsons. It was a glorious cultural day for those people who live on the other side of the border.
So Gyles Brandreth, speakers of whistle when gained that extra point, has increased his lead at the end of the round. And Gyles, it is actually now your turn to begin again. And the subject now is making a splash. As if you haven't made a big enough one already. Try talking on the subject. 60 seconds, starting now.
Those of you who only know me as the voice of Stewie in Family Guy will not realise that I have an amazing physical body to go with that extraordinary sound that emanates from my...
Paul Challenge.
Where'd you keep it?
That's what I'm going to explain. I take off my clothes to make a splash. You can't see it because I'm dressed, but when I'm undressed, you'll notice.
I don't know what the two of you are talking about. What's your challenge, Paul?
I don't think I've got one.
Oh, what a pity. I was going to give you the point. Gyles, it's still with you. 48 seconds, making a splash, starting now.
I love to go down to the Fulham baths, tear off all my garments, and wearing nothing but sweet Speedos, dive into the deep end. There...
Paul Challenge.
I think the Fulham baths closed about 1972.
Also, that will be deviation, because it wouldn't be allowed at any baths.
You've not still been going there. It's now a furniture room. Sell furniture now. He's been walking in there stark naked every Monday.
Paul, you have 40 seconds and a correct challenge, making a splash, starting now.
David Hockney made a splash with a painting around that very subject set in California by the swimming pools. Making a splash is a phrase you often hear in show business when somebody first comes along to entertain an audience. One of the very aspects that people like in entertainment is to find somebody who has a freshness.
Graham Challenge.
Repetition of entertainment.
Yes.
Was it? Yeah.
So, Graham, well, listen, 24 seconds are still available.
How many?
24.
Sorry, I buzzed terribly early.
The way you've been going up to now, that's nothing. That's a dolly.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Making a splash. Come on, Graham. 24 seconds, starting now.
Oh, there's nothing more annoying than being in a swimming pool when people are doing that thing of bombing, which I believe is illegal. I've seen the poster by the side of the wall. Oh, that would be the entire thing, the flat thing over there by the grass, perhaps. And then...
Paul Challenge.
Hesitation.
No, I don't think so.
Oh, really?
Why, do you want to relinquish the subject?
No, I'll keep going.
No, you can't. No, I disagree. Maybe teetering on hesitation, but not quite achieving it.
OK.
There's only 9 seconds. Gather your second wind, Graham, and go on making a splash, starting now.
I remember once appearing on the bill at the Royal Variety Performance, which sounds like a lie, but it really did happen.
Gyles Challenge.
Repetition of really.
Yes.
Damn, I nearly got there.
Yes. And Gyles,
No, it's okay, that's fine.
You've got him with 2 seconds
That's fine,
to go.
no, it's fine, Giles. You know, you're in the lead, that's fine. You just... Don't worry about us over here, we're fine.
They enjoy making you feel small, Gyles, but make a splash now with 2 seconds on that subject.
How many seconds?
2 seconds.
2 seconds. Enjoy it, Giles. Go.
Give Graham another bonus point. And
Did
can
Graham
you...
just get a bonus point for wishing Giles luck? Is that what happened? Good luck, Giles. Good luck.
Give Alun a bonus point. Paul, would you like to get a bonus point?
No. I'll wait till I've earned it.
I wish I could be so proud.
Give him a bonus point for that. And there's still 2 seconds left in this round. With Gyles, if he makes it, making a splash, starting now.
Johnny Weissmuller made a splash, and he is my role model.
So we're going into the final round. And as we do, let me tell you that it's pretty close, but one or two are trailing a little. Alun, who's not played as much as the rest, is trailing a little in 4th place, but not far behind Graham Norton and Paul Merton, who are equal in 2nd place, and they're 3 or 4 points behind our leader, Giles Brandreth. And Alun, it's with you to begin, and the subject is remembering people's names, starting now.
Remembering people's names is nigh on impossible for me, as people are so tedious that I really have to struggle to put their names into my head. Many people suggest tricks for remembering people's names, like, oh, you can make an image out of their name. And they always pick a convenient example, like if you meet someone called Stephen Lighthouse, just picture his face in a big, lit-up building on the coast of the country. It's...
Oh,
There was a bit of a hesitation there.
I was trying not to repeat Lighthouse.
Yes.
So I don't know if I gave that away or not.
A bit of a hesitation, but I think he was going with reasonable confidence and teetering, as I said before, but not quite achieving it. So we leave it with you, Alun. You've got another point for that, incorrect challenge. 32 seconds still available. Remembering people's names are starting now.
As I was saying to Steve...
Graham, you challenge.
There was a...
hesitation, yes. 30 seconds on remembering people's names starting now.
Remembering people's names is very difficult, as Andy was just explaining. And I find the most annoying thing about it is that people get upset. Why would you care? It wouldn't bother me in the slightest.
Alun challenge.
Just to correct you, it's Alun.
Oh,
And I'm really offended by you calling me Andy back then.
my point has been proved.
So what is your challenge, Alun, within the rules of just a minute?
There isn't one.
There
I was
isn't
just
one,
trying to
right.
make a little joke.
So, right, and make it...
I see the error of my
Give him a
ways
bonus
now.
point, right. Alun, we enjoy the interruption. A little bonus point there for him. Won't make a lot of difference to the final result. And... give him 2 bonus points. Right. Graham, you were interrupted. And remembering people's names, 14 seconds starting now.
I actually am very bad at it. And even good friends, I will be somewhere and go to introduce them, and suddenly that name is gone.
Paul challenge.
Was that a hesitation?
Oh, no. No. That was so filled.
It was filled with something.
It was filled with humorous animation and expression.
Is that what it was?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, what he said.
There was an intake of breath. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt, Paul. So, 4 seconds. Remembering people's names starting now.
Some people think it's a particular skill.
Paul chance.
Repetition of people.
Yes, you mentioned people before.
No, fair enough. That is fair.
No, people's on the card.
I know, it's people's, but he's repeated people.
Oh, yes. Oh, well. Yes. Graham, you've had 2 benefits
Yes,
of the
no,
doubt.
I know, I understand.
So, Paul, you've got it with 2 seconds to go. On remembering people's names starting now.
People, peoples. It doesn't really matter in the end as long as you get their name.
So let me give you the final score. Alun Cochrane, who achieved so much but finished up in a very fine, very talented 4th place. And but he was 3 points behind Graham Norton, and he was 4 points behind Paul Merton. And Paul was 5 points behind our leader, who is Gyles Brandreth. So a round of applause for our winner this week. We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and will want to tune in again the same time next week. It only remains to say thank you to these 4 intrepid players of the game, Paul Merton, Gyles Brandreth, Alun Cochrane and Graham Norton. I thank Sharon Leonard, who helped me keep the score and blown her whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We are indebted to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're very indebted to this lovely audience in the Radio Theatre. So from them and from me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye, and tune in the next time we take to the air and we play Just a Minute.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, once more it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in this country, but around the world, but to welcome 4 exciting, talented players of this game who are going to display their knowledge and skill with words as they speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those 4 are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Julian Clary, and seated on my left, Sue Perkins and Greg Proops. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me keep a score, and she'll blow a whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And we're going to begin the show with Sue Perkins. And the subject is the worst night of my life. Tell us something about that in this game, if you can, starting now.
I was in Leighton Buzzard, trapped in a lift with George Galloway just after he had hit pay dirt with that incredible impression of a cat. There he was, still in the leotard, asking me to extend my palms cupped upwards so he could do the drinking milk thing. No, I said, I can't be party to this. He would have none of it. I'm a Persian, you know, he said. He'd now got such specifics in mind when it came to which particular feline he was mimicking. The lift would not move. I've said lift already.
Yes, Julian challenge.
Repetition of lift.
Yes. And Julian, you challenge first. Yes, you repeated lift. So that's repetition. You get a point for that. Take over the subject. 29 seconds available, starting now.
The worst night of my life was when I was coming out of China White. It must have been 5 o'clock in the morning. And the paps were there, mistook me, I don't know why, for Denise Welch. Well, I had some man on my arm who I dragged off the dance floor, and I was fully intending to show him a very good time at my hotel suite. But what with the paparazzi behind us, well, we couldn't get there. Anyway, I thought, well, I'm having my way whether you like it or not.
That was also the worst night of my life.
Yeah. In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and it was Julian Clary. And Julian's the only one to score any points in that round, so he's naturally in the lead. And Julian, you're actually due to begin the next round. And the subject is the Vikings. 60 seconds starting now.
Well, the Vikings were absolute brutes. They came over here in their thousands by boat, if you please, hair blowing in the wind. Well, we Brits didn't know what to make of them to begin with. We thought nice bone structure. Who buzzed?
Sue buzzed.
I had a sort of trigger finger. I didn't mean to buzz at all. It just happened.
Well, if that happens, Sue, the person who's interrupted gets a point.
Yes, and rightly so.
And he continues, which is Julian Clary. And there are 47 seconds still for you, Julian, on the Vikings, starting now.
The Vikings are coming. We all screamed as we barricaded ourselves in our castles. But they weren't stopping at that.
How old are you? Well, we all screamed when the Vikings... I didn't scream, I wasn't there.
No, I was talking
Nicholas
about...
was
I was
there.
talking about
He was a tour guide for them.
we British. I was talking on behalf of our British ancestors.
Oh, I see.
Don't be so picky.
That's kind of what the show's about.
What do you think, Nicholas?
It did sound as if you were thinking the Vikings were just around the corner the
I
other
was
day.
dramatising it, bringing it to
Dramatising, I
life.
see.
All right.
I
I'll give
was
you the
deeply
benefit of the
involved.
doubt,
Yeah,
Julian.
give him the benefit.
I've got too many points now.
Yeah. Well, you can store them up for the future. Right. Vikings, still with you, Julian. 40 seconds, starting now.
Viking genes, slowly over the generations, mingled with our own Anglo-Saxons, and therefore we grew taller and stronger and had blue eyes. If it weren't for the Vikings, goodness knows what would have become of us. We'd have had...
Paul Chance.
What are you saying about my mother? Hesitation.
Yeah, I think there was. I'll give you the benefit of the doubt,
Yeah.
Paul. 25 seconds. Tell us something about the Vikings, starting now.
I don't know anything about the Vikings.
Julian, you challenge first.
He stopped talking, which
And
would
this-
count as
Shall we interpret that as hesitation?
a hesitation.
And so you've got it back, Julian. You've got your person talking this show this week. 24 seconds, still with you, Julian, on the Vikings, starting now.
The Vikings, where were we? Oh, yes, seafaring men, women and children. They came from a far-off land. They brought their folklores with them, and they'd sit round the campfire talking gobbledygook, which is the Viking language. Well, everyone adored them almost instantly, and the women said, come and...
Repetition of women.
Yes, because you had women and children before.
Yes.
And so you've got in with 1 second to go. And 1 second on the Vikings, starting now.
Horned helmet brutes, they swept across the sea.
So Sue was speaking as a whistle-wind, gained that extra point for doing so. She made them out to be brutes. Julian thought they were lovable, and he's got 5 points. He's way out in the lead like that. Sue's got 2, Paul's got 1, Greg's gets a score, and Sue, is actually your turn to begin. And the subject now, a very erudite one, Gauguin. Tell us something about Gauguin in this game, starting now.
Gauguin was a European post-impressionist, and actually the thing I remember him for is that he was hanging around Van Gogh when the ear incident took place. Many people think said painter severed his own lug hole, but actually recent evidence points to the fact that Gauguin and his nibs had a bit of a barney over a local prostitute, and this ended up with a sword fight taking place. Neither artist was a particularly good fencer, and so what happened, of course, is the very tip of that august painter I formerly mentioned flew off, but they decided to keep it quiet. Much better, of course, for folklore, that somebody would think that in a moment of artistic madness and heightened sensibility, they had severed part of their own anatomy.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of severed.
Yes, he severed his ear earlier on.
Yes.
And you went for 48 seconds.
That was a special 48 seconds
Yes.
noise.
I'll give you a bonus point. I think you deserve it.
Oh, bless you.
But, Julian, you get a point for a correct challenge with 12 seconds to go. Gauguin starting now.
Gauguin was French, I expect, and a devil with a paintbrush. He was prolific. Lots of dusky women in Haiti wearing lovely sari affairs.
Paul challenge.
Deviation, I think it was Tahiti he did most of his painting.
Oh, we travelled around a bit.
No, he didn't. Tahiti and Walthamstow are the 2 places that he painted mainly. Didn't go to Haiti.
He didn't go to Haiti.
No, he didn't, no.
It was Tahiti.
Yeah.
We have to be factual on this show?
Yeah.
Well, we do get letters otherwise. And I get bored writing it.
Really? No emails then?
Paul, 2 seconds to go. Correct challenge. Gauguin starting now.
Gauguin's impression of a post was absolutely fantastic, which made him, of course, the best of the post impressionists.
Well, at the end of that round is a very interesting situation. Paul Merton, Julian Clary and Sue Perkins are all equal in the lead. Julian, it's your turn to begin. The subject is the first chapter of my autobiography. 60 seconds starting now.
The first chapter of my autobiography, which is entitled A Young Man's Passage, begins with the Norman Lamont incident. And once you've got through that, we then reverse backwards to my childhood and all the interesting things that happened to make me into the renowned homosexual and camp comic that sits before you now. The first chapter of my autobiography is also the end. Interestingly, it goes full circle if you follow my drift. The first chapter of my...
Greg, challenge.
I believe he said first twice.
He did say first twice, and Greg, you've got him with 30 seconds to go.
Is it on the card?
It's on the card.
Oh, is it?
It's on the card, Greg.
Oh, well, drop me then. I was just excited that I was listening.
I know.
Sorry, Jules.
And I was so excited that you might get your first point, but... and so I can't give it to you, unfortunately, Greg, because it's on the card. You can take the subject or any words in that subject. So, Julian, incorrect challenge. Another point to you. The first chapter of my autobiography, 30 seconds starting now.
The first chapter of my autobiography takes place in Tahiti, where I went to make some lovely paintings, just like that Gauguin chap. Or was it Haiti? I don't know.
Sue challenge.
There was a hesitation, which I think was a crumb.
No, I coughed something up.
Ooh.
Mid-sentence, and I don't know where it went. I'm ever so sorry.
I don't know where that sits under the rules of just a minute.
No.
So there's no deviation or congestion. Thank you. I don't have a point yet.
Give him a bonus point for that, all right? Let's see, you had a correct challenge, 20 seconds available. The first chapter of my autobiography starting now.
The first chapter of my autobiography deals with the scarring incident of watching Julian Clary and Norman Lamont make television history. After that, I realised that nothing was sacred in this world. Such a beautiful moment when an august MP was brought down to size quite rightly. The second chapter, of course, goes on to discuss my own childhood.
Oh, right. So Sue Perkins will then speak as the whistle and gain that extra point. And she's moved forward. She's equal with Julian in the lead, 1 point ahead of Paul. Greg is scoring, and it's his turn to begin. And Greg, we've got the subject for you now of Cleopatra. Tell us something about Cleopatra in this game, starting now.
Cleopatra was a dynamic woman, a divine goddess, an empress of most of the Eastern Empire. Her romantic affairs were legend. First, Julius Caesar, to whom she was delivered in a basket of laundry, though some people would argue she was rolled up in a carpet. Either way, they got it going and knocked boots until the break of dawn. The Nile River flows so very freely all through Africa, as did Cleopatra when she worked her wiles on that august emperor, the one who I'd previously mentioned. Later, after Caesar was assassinated, he was...
Sue challenge.
Repeat of Caesar.
Yes, indeed. 25 seconds for you, Sue, on Cleopatra, starting now.
Cleopatra coming at you, loved to bathe in a bath of ass's milk, which I'd find a little cloying. She loved a little bit of it. And why wouldn't you? Famously, of course, it was the asp that got her in the end. A snake that legend has it...
Paul challenge.
I think it bit her on the chest, actually. The snake got her in the end. These jokes are available on teletext if you want to check them at any point.
Yeah, but she was using it colloquially
Indeed
in the end, yes. So, Sue, benefit of the doubt.
There's an image.
11 seconds.
11 seconds.
Still with you on Cleopatra, starting now.
Cleopatra's legacy was a symmetrical bob, and I think she'd be pleased with that. Jessie J rocks that look and frequently says, I'm all about the Cleopatra. It doesn't matter that she ruled...
So, Sue Perkins, speak as the whistle when, gain that extra point as we move forward. Ahead of Julian Clary, Paul Merton and Greg Proops in that order. Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is going to the dump. Tell us something about going to the dump in this game, starting now.
Recycling is something that we should all do as model citizens, whether it be plastic, glass, wood, paper, whatever you need to recycle, it can be done. Now, the best place to do this is undoubtedly the local dump. When I go there, I say to myself, All the world is here in detritus form. Look at that torn letter there. Is that a missive from a loved one to someone lost overseas? Or is it just a grocery bill from Barnsley? We look at the letters.
Julian challenge.
Repetition of look.
Oh, yes, you looked before.
Yes.
So, Julian, you've got in with 33 seconds on going to the dump, starting now.
I go to the dump quite often. I'm all for a good clear-out. I've got lesbian friends who come round in their dungarees and we load up the car, drive straight to the dump, and it's all in different sections these days. There's electrical goods dump, or there's things for paper, and you get the general idea. It's very organised, and all of these things, once placed in the receptacle...
Sue challenge.
Repetition of things.
Yes, there were too many things there, Julian, right. So, Sue, you've got in with 12 seconds to go on going to the dump, starting now.
I love going to the dump, or the civic amenity site, as they'd have you call it, these days. Paul is right. You can recycle pretty much anything. It requires order and precision, which is in many ways lacking from my life. But how I love to sit...
So, Sue Perkins was again speaking as the whistle went to gain that extra point and has moved forward and increased her lead ahead of Julian, Clary and Paul Merton. And Sue, we're actually back with you to begin. And the subject now is how I would describe my personality. Can you do that in 60 seconds if possible, starting now?
How I would describe my personality is very different from the psychiatric profile that was done on me. I was amazed at the disparity between the two. I see myself as something of a bon viveur, cheeky, ready to dash out at a moment's notice. However, that wasn't quite the verdict. It seems that once I've stopped speaking for, well, let's hope a minute, I can retire into a slightly smaller world. And when I'm at home, I'm not this gobby, specky fool, but more of a retiring and contemplative soul who likes to consider the bigger picture, although I've never fully realised it. It's important, I think, when considering my personality, to realise that there are facets. We can be every little thing to each and every person that we come into contact with in this...
Greg challenge.
I hated to stop the flow because I was enchanted, but I believe she said every twice.
Yes, she did.
Yeah, I did.
And she said consider twice as well, but you didn't pick that one up. Anyway, the...
I've just got to check my notes here for a second.
I have
You're
to say
right,
that
she did say consider
yeah.
twice.
20 seconds for you, Greg, after a correct challenge on how I would describe my personality, starting now.
Irrepressible.
Paul, the challenge.
I just didn't feel the need to go on, really.
Yeah, that says it all.
Hesitation.
Yes, of course. So, Paul, the balance is fairly done. 16 seconds on how I would describe my personality, starting now.
Brusque, Romanian, coquettish, girly, sexy, strange, odd.
Julian challenge.
Well,
Oh, here we go.
I'm still smarting a little.
Are you? Well, that's your own fault. I warned you I was not like other men.
He can't describe himself in those terms because it's not true. If I can't say Gauguin painted pictures in Tahiti
still
or
worried
whatever
about
it was, and that's not allowed because it's not true, then you can't say you're coquettish and girly because, quite frankly, I've never seen anything less coquettish.
I would agree with you, Julian. I don't think he's coquettish.
No, or girly.
Yeah, but
No.
it's how I would describe my personality, not what you would think.
I love the fact that everyone's thinking it's fine that you said Romanian.
Yes.
But of course, he's Romanian. Everybody know that.
I always thought he was.
Yeah.
No.
It's deviation.
It's deviation, not coquettish or girlish. 10 seconds for you, Julian, on how I would...
But that's how I would describe my personality. I might be wrong.
I think you can be very
Oh, I
coquettish.
see your point, Paul,
Yes.
yes.
I think you seem real Romanian.
Yeah.
Because that's how I was describing it. I'm not saying it's a worldview that other people share.
Actually, Paul, it's a very difficult decision, but within the rules of just a minute, you have a point, don't you?
I sort of do.
Yes.
Julian's not happy. Give it to him.
Well, I was nearly home and dry there. You
Yes.
said I was told I had 10 seconds, and suddenly it's snatched from my grasp.
Yeah.
I feel very liberated because I've always seen myself as Latvian, but I could never say it until now.
I feel Carpathian.
Yeah. Wow, you're rocking old school.
10 seconds, Julian, on how I would describe my personality, starting now.
Masculine, hirsute, heterosexual,
Paul,
Russian.
challenge.
Well, if I can't call myself coquettish...
All right. If you can't call yourself coquettish, he can't call himself those things he just said.
What, masculine?
What's that?
I beg your pardon.
No, I gave you the benefit of the doubt before. Paul has it on this occasion. 6 seconds, Paul. How I would describe my personality, starting now.
Rugged, cheesy, bulimic.
That's right.
Anorexic. What do you mean that's right? You can't interrupt me when I'm talking. You can't interrupt me when I'm talking, can he, Nicholas? It's not allowed.
Just kind of saying, go girl, you know.
Go girl? No, it was go gang, not go girl.
Sue, you challenged.
Yeah, it sort of broke down into
I was
barracking.
heckled. I was heckled.
He was heckled.
He was
Yeah.
heckled. So I'd say hesitation
I
due
was
to...
barracked.
Embarrassed. I know what I'm going to do. Let's give all three of you a point.
Let's start.
Because, Sue, you have a correct challenge.
Right.
Because he did do that.
Yeah.
And there's only half a second to go. So, Paul, you have a point because you were interrupted. Julian, you have a point because I agree with what you said. So all three of you got a
Wait,
point.
hang on, Julian's get a point for heckling.
No, because he was saying the same thing as you, which
Yeah.
were quite ridiculous.
This has got intense.
Okay, right.
Okay,
being
so
told
I've
off
got
now.
half a second, though.
No, you haven't. It's gone. You've just got a bonus point. We move on to the next subject. Julian, it's your turn to begin. The subject is street parties, starting now.
Street parties are all the rage. The size... Oh, no.
Sue challenge.
Hesitation.
Yes, indeed. And you have, 58 seconds. Street parties, Sue, starting now.
I have a fear of street parties. This comes from the Queen's Silver Jubilee, where I was forced to wear a red, white and blue jumpsuit, thanks to my mother, and sit at a trestle table with people laughing at me. There I was with NHS spectacles, looking like something a reject out of the fascist party, while people just moved Victoria sponges in and out of my line of sight. I don't like enforced merriment. There's something about people being made to get together and have fun that I find a little...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of people.
Yes, there were too many people there.
It was a busy event.
Julian,
It was the
well
Queen's Silver
listened.
Jubilee.
32 seconds are still available. Street parties starting now.
My sister Frankie makes bunting, and I don't know if you're having a street party where you live, but you could give me the order, and they come in all different colours, very reasonably priced. You could hang them between the houses if you live in a sort of terraced arrangement, or from the lampposts.
Sue challenged.
Repetition of sort of.
Oh, yes.
Sort ofs.
Sort of. 19 seconds, Sue. Street parties starting now.
I expect the London Olympics will be greeted by a flurry of street parties. And there people can have the festival food that...
Julian challenge.
Repetition of people again.
Again, the people, yes.
Oh, yes.
Anyway, I don't think street parties were going to for the Olympics. They'll be
I'm
for
going
the
to do
Jubilee.
a massive one. And I'm going to have cocktail sausages on javelins.
Julian, 12 seconds on street parties starting now.
I make a lovely jelly with fruit in it, and my toad in the hole is the talk of the neighbourhood. Mouths will be watery.
Paul
He's
challenge.
talking about the general recipes that he conjures up, but nothing to do with street parties at
This
this
is the
point.
food that I will be serving at the street party.
Oh, you didn't make that clear.
Well, you knew the subject was street parties. What do you think I was talking about?
Well, I've no idea. But I'm just coquettish.
Yes, well, we won't take a vote on that.
I tell you what, because of your coquettish joke there, we'll give you a bonus point. But, Julian, you were interrupted. Incorrect challenge. And there are 6 seconds on street parties starting now.
The only aspect of street parties that I'm not keen on is the plastic cutlery, although even then I will be holding it in the correct fashion.
So Julian was then speaking as a whistle. When gained that extra point, he's equal in the lead with Sue Perkins. Then comes Paul Merton and then Greg Proops. And Greg, we're back with you to begin. And the subject is, why the dinosaurs died out. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
The reason the dinosaurs died out is a very simple one. Theory has it that a meteorite hit the Earth, and that caused all the dinosaurs to perish all at once. But the truth is a little more simple. What happened was just this. The dinosaurs were bored with being around all the time and having Richard Attenborough yell at them. He would say, "Welcome to Jurassic Park." And I'm going to guess that's a hesitation call.
Yes. Julian, you challenge first.
Oh, it was very interesting, but
And
there was a hesitation. What could I do?
And completely factual as well.
36 seconds for you, Julian, on why the dinosaurs died out, starting now.
The dinosaurs died out, I believe, because it got a bit chilly for them and they hadn't yet learnt about clothing, feathers or fur. If only they'd all huddled together, maybe then there'd have been enough heat generated for the dinosaurs to survive to another era. But alas, one by one they went...
Oh, Paul challenged first, yes, one by one. 15 seconds, Paul, with you. Why the dinosaurs died out, starting now.
The dinosaur was very much a creature of its time. If we look at that era, we realise the dinosaur was complete.
Sue challenged.
Repetition of dinosaur, and it's dinosaurs on the card?
Oh, it is. Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Yes.
Oh.
Isn't it why the dinosaurs died out?
It is. It's plural, why the dinosaurs died out. Well, listen, Sue, 6 seconds on why the dinosaurs died out, starting now.
Greg was right, indeed. A huge meteorite smashed into the Earth. And although I'm no scientist, I believe this slightly tilted the gravitational axis of the Earth and it will...
Well, I just received a message. We're moving into the final round.
Oh.
Sue Perkins and Julian Clary are equal in the lead, and they are 4 points ahead of Paul Merton and more than 4 points ahead of Greg Proops. But, Greg, it's the contribution that you make which is all important. Paul, it's your turn to begin, and the subject now is early starts. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
When I had a paper round when I was about 12 years old, I have to make a very early start during the week and indeed at the Sunday as well, because I would get up round about 6:30, go to the shop to pick up the papers, and I would then distribute...
Yes, Julian?
Oh, I know what you're going to say. Paper and papers.
Yes.
That's right. A paper round and papers. So, incorrect challenge.
But thank you for telling me.
And, Paul, you have another point, and you have 45 seconds early starts, starting now.
When I was working as a coquettish escort in Earl's Court, I used to get up at 5:30 in the morning to service the sailors.
Julian challenge.
Who's buzzed?
Julian has.
Oh, I have.
Have you? This seems to have become a surprise to you.
Yes, no, a repetition of
Half past.
Half past.
Past. Half past.
It was up at 6:30 before, now it's 5:30.
There you are, you see, too many half pasts.
Yes.
40 seconds, Julian. Tell us something about early starts, starting now.
My boyfriend's recently moved into my luxury home and he's an early starter. He gets up so early and then he comes back late at night, and so I am disturbed several times. Well, this is all very well, but I like to rise when I'm good and ready, when I hear the dawn chorus. So therefore, I'm aging rapidly, and I said, this isn't going to work out. I'm afraid you have to go and work as an escort with that coquettish Paul. He's always looking for someone because they're queuing around the block for him. Early rising...
Sue, you've challenged.
I was going to say repetition of early, but of course it's on the card, so I am an idiot.
Yes, early starts. So, Julian, an incorrect challenge. Early starts are still with you. 11 seconds starting now.
Early starts are essential if you're a postman. I once went out with Pop-It-In Pat, and he would get up before the sun.
Pop-It-In Pat?
That was what I called him. He used to work in Lewisham.
That doesn't improve it.
Sue, you challenge.
There was a repetition of get up.
With Pop-It-In Pat, I'm not surprised.
Pop-It-In Pat has got up one too many times.
Sue, you've got him with 4 seconds to go on early starts, starting now.
I once worked in a hotel and had to get up 4:30 in the morning to clean toilets. It was the most depressing work I've ever experienced.
Right, so let me give you the final score. Because Sue Perkins was speaking when the whistle went, gained that extra point. Greg Proops, who hasn't played the game for about 10 years, I think. But whenever he spoke, we loved it. And so, Greg, you finished in a magnificent 4th place. Paul Merton, who's won many times before, finished only just in 2nd place, behind Sue Perkins and Julian Clary, who are equal in the lead. So we have joint winners this week. 1 2 3 4 5 6 7 8 9 10 11 12 13 14 15 16 17 18 19 20 21 22 23 24 25 26 27 28 29 30 31 32 33 34 35 36 37 38 39 40 41 42 43 44 45 46 47 48 49 50 51 52 53 54 55 56 57 58 59 60 61 62 63 64 65 66 67 68 69 70 71 72 73 74 75 76 77 78 79 80 81 82 83 84 85 86 87 88 89 90 91 92 93 94 95 96 97 98 99 100 101 102 103 104 105 106 107 108 109 110 111 112 113 114 115 116 117 118 119 120 121 122 123 124 125 126 127 128 129 130 131 132 133 134 135 136 137 138 139 140 141 142 143 144 145 146 147 148 149 150 151 152 153 154 155 156 157 158 159 160 We do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and we'll want to tune in again the same time next week when once more we take to the air and play this amazing game. It only remains me to say thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Paul, Merton, Julian, Clary, Sue Perkins and Greg Proops. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, and we are indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to our producer, Claire Jones. From the audience, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute.
Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but also around the world, and also to welcome to the show 4 talented personalities from our show business galaxy, and they are seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Paul Sinner, and seated on my left, Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair. Please welcome all 4 of them. Beside me sits Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score. She's going to blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from Bridlington, and we are part of the Arts Festival here in this delightful town. And we have a lovely Bridlington audience here in the Spa Theatre to cheer us on our way as we begin the show with Tony Hawks. Tony, oh, what an apt subject to start the show with, Yorkshire puddings. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
There are many different kinds of puddings in the world, let's face it. But of them all, surely Yorkshire pudding is the finest. Can you imagine eating a pudding that was made in Lancashire with your Sunday roast? No! I can feel the audience getting behind me in my tirade. Of course, if I was in Manchester, I might say a different thing, but that's another matter. Take a little bit of flour, water, milk, whatever you've got lying around, bit of dripping, whack it in a... I don't know how to do it, actually. I'm just guessing, but I've had some wonderful Yorkshire puddings in my time, particularly in Halifax, which is a place I often go to when there's nowhere else.
And Jenny, you've challenged.
Only because he hesitated.
Right, so Jenny, that's a correct challenge. You get a point for that. Then you take over the subject, and there are 14 seconds still available. Yorkshire puddings starting now.
Interestingly enough, I once saw my sister regurgitate an entire Yorkshire pudding on a flight from Berlin to London back in the 60s. There is a reason for this, which is too long-winded to...
In this game, whoever is speaking when the whistle goes gains an extra point, and of course it was Jenny Eclair, and she's the only one to have scored at the end of that round. So we now move on, and we'll ask Paul Sinner, will you begin the next round? Oh, another lovely Yorkshire subject, boycotts. 60 seconds starting now.
Well might there be a frisson in the room, for we are in Yorkshire, and of course there is no boycotts, there is only one boycott. Well, there you go, there is some agreement. The word has changed its meaning over the years. It used to mean that people wouldn't go to the Olympic Games. But now to boycott is to take a sport and drain all the joy and life.
Richard, you've challenged.
I would say it was a hesitation.
There was. The trouble is he was playing the audience.
He was. I understand that.
That's the thing about this game. If you go well, you want to wait for the audience, and yet you can't wait for the audience. But, Richard, it was a hesitation, so we give you a point for that. And there are 37 seconds, boycotts starting now.
I think I should really try and boycott this round myself. I feel strongly that the subject of boycotts...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
There was an
There was one at the beginning. Thanks for letting it go.
It is true, Richard, you did begin with...
I did, yeah. Thank you very much. To err is human.
Right, there are 30 seconds still available, Paul, and you have boycotts starting now.
I accept that boycott is a legend in many ways, but what can you say about a man so slow that his knighthood, the ceremony by which the Queen knighted him, lasted so long that the Queen had to retire?
Richard
Repetition
there was,
Queen.
Yes.
And repetition of so, but it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
18 seconds are still available, and Richard is with you. Boycotts starting now.
One of my favourite boycotts was by Geoffrey Boycott himself. When he was meant to be playing in a test match, he pretended he was ill because he didn't want to field, and he went off and played golf instead, which was the reason his test career ended, I believe. That was the last time he...
Paul challenged.
Deviation. It wasn't the reason his test career ended. It ended because of a rebel tour of South Africa.
I agree with you, Paul. And you had 3 seconds on boycotts starting now.
Undoubtedly his finest innings was in 1979 in the World...
So Paul Sinner got a number of points in that round, and he's moved forward. He's in the lead. He's one ahead of Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair, and Tony's yet to score, but we've heard from him.
Story of his life.
I should have said he's yet to score any points in this show. Right. Richard, will you begin the next round? The subject is Where I Grew Up. 60 seconds starting now.
Some people would argue that I have not yet grown up, but I was born in the East Riding of Yorkshire, in a town called Pocklington, or Pock, as many people will call it around here. Unfortunately, due to my parents' lack of foresight, I moved from that area when I was 4 years old, and I suppose I grew up in Cheddar, in Somerset, a beautiful part of the world, nestling in the Mendip Hills in Somersetshire.
Paul, yes.
A repetition of Somerset, I believe.
I disagree.
No, he said Somersetshire the second time.
I caught you out.
Is that a word?
No, it isn't.
It is. Somersetshire. I'm from Somersetshire, and that's what we sometimes call it.
On occasions, I give the benefit of the doubt. And I think, to be fair, I have to give the benefit of the doubt to Paul. And if I can redress the balance later, Richard, I give it back to you. Paul, you've got Where I Grew Up, 35 seconds starting now.
It's mistakenly believed, thanks to Wikipedia, that I grew up in Luton in Bedfordshire, but I didn't. I was lucky that my father and mother forsook that godforsaken...
Tony challenge.
I think there was a slight hesitation there.
There was a definite hesitation.
And also, is forsook a word?
Well, yeah.
No.
So, Tony, you got in with 25 seconds to go. You've got a point for a correct challenge, of course. Where I Grew Up is the subject, and you start now.
The most important thing in life is to grow up in a seaside resort that begins with BR. And I was born in Brighton. And I have lived there most of my life. I would wander along the beach. Not that it's as magnificent as the north one here, which is...
Richard Chandler.
Is there a definition we can say just creeping to the audience? I think should be. I think we should just allow that as a new challenge, because he's done it every single time. Every single time he's spoken.
Richard,
I'm actually from the East Riding of Yorkshire, and if anyone's going to play to the crowd, it is me.
Richard, we've been going for 45 years with this show, and I don't think you can suddenly come along and introduce new rules or anything. Especially if they're going to be to your advantage. Right. So that was an incorrect challenge. It's still with you, Tony, Where I Grew Up, and there are... Oh, there's only 1 second to go. Anyway, 1 second, starting now.
Portsmouth is...
Right. So it's pretty even pegging. They're all about equal at the moment. And Jenny, we're with you to begin. So, Jenny, the subject I have in front of me is now how to make money. I don't know whether you've made much in your time, but you've certainly been a very
Why do you think I'm here?
How to make money, Jenny, is a subject, and there are 60 seconds starting now.
The easiest way to make money is to buy a clever dog, teach it some tricks, go on Britain's Got Talent and win £500,000. There's nothing right about this business. The other method would be to obtain a really good colour photocopy.
Tony, you challenge first.
What? I don't know where you obtained that. I wouldn't know how to spell it.
I suddenly developed a speech impediment, and I'm so sorry. I was trying to say colour photocopier.
Why were you starting with an F? That's what I want to know.
They'll think when they listen to this show coming out that he pressed his buzzer in order to censor you. But Tony, it was hesitation.
Yeah.
So how to make money is with you, and there are 40 seconds starting now.
For me, the easiest way to make money is to sell my body, which I shall be doing after the show as I wander the streets of Bridlington, which will probably bring me in about £3.50.
Richard, you challenge.
It's deviation in a lot of ways, but I don't think you would make £3.50. I think it's overestimation as well. I think you might have to pay out £3.50.
No, I'm including VAT.
Tony, I gave the benefit of the doubt to you last time. I'm going to give it to you this time, Richard, because I don't think Tony walking the streets of Bridlington and trying to make money with his body would have much success at all. So, Richard, you have the subject. 24 seconds. How to make money starting now.
I did try to sell my body to medical science, but they didn't want it. They asked me to pay in order to take it. I think the best way to make money, though, is to get a job at the Royal Mint, where you will literally be out there making money every day, taking banknotes, just paper to begin with.
And Paul challenged?
Hesitation.
There was a hesitation. Yes, a definite, I'm afraid, Richard. How to make money, Paul? 7 seconds starting now.
Without a shadow of a doubt, the easiest way to make money is to use your imagination and create a world where a teenage wizard gets taught by...
Jenny challenged.
I'd like to take that challenge back. I'm really sorry. I thought he was deviating from making money, but he was referring, of course, to J.K. Rowling, who wrote the books Harry Potter and Maiden. That's why she's called J.K. Rowling in it.
But it was an incorrect challenge, so Paul, you have another point for that. How to make money, half a second, starting now.
Never read the books, they're kids' stuff.
Right. So at the end of that round, Paul Sinner's getting lots of points. He's now in the lead. He's 2 ahead of Tony Hawkes, 3 ahead of Richard Herring, and 4 ahead of Jenny Clare. And Tony, your turn to begin. The subject is family history. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
I'm very keen on genealogy, and I have traced my ancestry all the way back to my father, who, believe it or not, was born in Bridlington. It's true. He met my mother, possibly at this theatre. She was in a group called the Three Skylarks. He was a stage door Johnny. He went round, took her flowers, and I've been wandering around this town today thinking this is where I began. It's extraordinary, moving in some ways. And what's the subject?
Yeah. Richard,
I think there was a hesitation, but he was...
Definitely. He was so moved he came to a halt.
True, I didn't make that up, though. My dad is from Bridlington.
Well, that's all right.
Yeah.
We believe you.
Do you? Because I lie all the time.
Another point to you, Richard. 26 seconds available. Family history starting now.
The thing that I have never understood about family trees is why the line goes through the father each time. That is the one person we can never be sure that you are related to at all. It should go through the maternal line, because we know.
Jenny challenge.
2 throughs. Through the father, through the mother.
Yes. Well, listen, Jenny, and you have the subject. You have 12 seconds. Family history starting now.
My family history was not deemed interesting enough to do that telly programme, Who Do You Think You Are?
Richard challenge.
Repetition of you in the title, Who Do You Think You Are? They're very close together. Very close together. And I know that because I was planning on that, just was thinking to myself of mentioning it in my one. I thought, well, I won't do that because there's a repetition.
So I have to be correct within the rules of just a minute and say, well, Richard, you have a correct challenge, another point to you, and 6 seconds, family history starting now.
The programme I really like to watch on TV is Who Do You Think One Is? That is
really... Tony challenge.
What channel's that on? That's the Queen's channel, isn't it? Who does one think one is?
You have a challenge when the rules...
Well, there's no programme, deviation. There's no such programme. He said he likes to watch this programme. It doesn't exist. How can he watch it? He lives in a fantasy world.
That's a very good point, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Oh, I'll give you the benefit of the doubt and say yes. And you've got him with half a second to go. Family history starting now.
Gloria Swanson.
So Tony has now moved forward. He's equal with Paul Sinner in the lead, and they're closely followed by the other 2. And Paul, we're back with you to begin. The subject is The happiness index. 60 seconds starting now.
The happiness index, which one must be careful to pronounce with the H intact, is a concept introduced by the King of Bhutan, Jigme Wanchuk, who basically came up with the idea of gross national happiness to measure the elation of his country.
Tony, you challenged.
Yeah, I'm ashamed there was a slight hesitation.
There was, definitely. He was getting so clever, I think he tripped himself up, wasn't he? Yes. Right, so Tony, you were correct challenge. 49 seconds, the happiness index starting now.
I think that the King of Bhutan was onto a good thing. It's a marvellous, wonderful way of measuring how you spend your time on this earth. Who cares how much money you've got? I don't. I want to walk along the beaches of Brighton or Bridlington and just wallow, if you can, in happiness that's all around us. The currency is different. It's not to do with pounds or dollars or euros. It's connected with the elation that you feel inside you. I'm talking so much.
Yeah, I think they're clapping your emotional exposition there. Jenny, you challenged first?
There were 2 U's, and he hesitated.
They were in the field.
I can't give you 2 points, Jenny. You get 1 point for a correct challenge. 17 seconds. Tell us something about the happiness index starting now.
Men carry their happiness index in their pants. Up, happy, down, sad. Women are much more complicated, and our happiness index is affected by many things. Hormones, whether we can get into last year's jeans.
So Jenny, Claire was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point. She's equal with Richard in 3rd place, but they're only 1 point behind Paul, and he's only 1 point behind Tony. That is neck and neck, isn't it? Richard, we're back with you to begin. The subject, a romantic gesture. Tell us something about that in this game, starting now.
Love is a metaphysical nicety born out of the basest human needs, just the way our subconscious allows us to meet someone to mate with. But I am a very romantic man.
Paul challenged.
Deviation, no, it isn't. He's taking the joy out of it. It isn't. It just isn't.
But Paul, he was expressing his opinion. It was a fact, but it must be his. But it must be his opinion as well. So, benefit of the doubt, I think, to Richard on this occasion. Keeps the subject, 52 seconds, a romantic gesture, starting now.
Every morning when I make my partner a bowl of porridge, I will take...
Jenny, challenge.
Well, I think I should point out that's a slight deviation. He's called her his partner. They are legally wed, and I think she would appreciate being called your wife.
I
think you've forgotten.
I was planning ahead that I thought I might mention she was my wife later on, so I thought I would...
No, clearly what's happening, he's making breakfast for his business partner. Something's going on there. What's your business partner doing, staying around your place?
It's a difficult one to judge. Because you could say logically he's his wife, but she still is also his partner.
Yes.
But I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt. Richard's had 2 benefits. You're going to get the benefit of the doubt in this occasion.
I don't think I have.
Jenny, 48 seconds on a romantic gesture, starting now.
Preparing a candlelit meal could be deemed a romantic gesture. Unless you've done kippers, there's nothing romantic about trying to give the old man a Heimlich manoeuvre on the kitchen table whilst you're screaming into his face.
Oh, Richard.
I think there was a his there.
His. That's his name. His. Your dinner's ready.
Hesitation. Jenny had the benefit of the doubt last time. You have it this time, and there are 32 seconds. A romantic gesture's back with you, Richard, starting now.
When I first met my first wife...
Tony, you challenged.
Well, there was a hesitation there.
And I said first twice. Well, I'll give you that.
Well, he hesitated because he realised a mistake he'd made. But anyway, it's correct, Tony. A romantic gesture's with you, and there are 29 seconds. Why are you laughing at that? It's nothing funny. Starting now.
I'll tell you something that isn't a romantic gesture, and that's this.
Paul challenged.
I don't know where to start, really. Number one, that is definitely deviation.
Well, actually, I tell you, it's deviation because this is radio, and I can tell you it was pretty disgusting. And
you won't get £3.50 round the back of the theatre for that. That's all I'm saying.
Anyway, he did hesitate. So, Paul, you have 24 seconds on a romantic gesture, starting now.
Touched as I am by these romantic gestures, they all pale into comparison with the 17th century Mughal Emperor Shah Jahan, who, so distraught by the death of his wife, Mumtaz, spent 25 years creating the Taj Mahal, which still to this day is the most romantic Indian restaurant in Streatham, South London. Chicken tikka...
Jenny.
Just a tiny pause to take his much-deserved laugh.
I was feeling he should have a bonus point for the joke he made. Really. That is bonus point. You have the subject, a romantic gesture, Jenny, and there are 4 seconds starting now.
I know a bloke who gave his wife an engagement ring and hid it in a glass of champagne.
Oh. Now, you challenged before...
I am going to challenge this because Jenny Eclair said, I know a bloke who gave his wife an engagement ring. Why would he be giving his wife an engagement ring? They were already married.
Jenny, what we can say is they're hoisted on your own petard.
But I don't think Richard's going to be able to keep going for the time that's left in this round. There's about a quarter of a second.
Have the point, you have the subject, and you only have half a second. No, less than a quarter of a second, actually. A romantic gesture. Put that in your mouth now, darling.
At least you called her darling. I mean, that's quite romantic.
That would be the longest half second of your life.
I must explain to our listeners, I was suggesting to Sharon... Now, you saw what happened. But I must tell the listener, I was persuading Sharon to put the whistle in.
It's not getting any better.
Because she only has a quarter of a second. Whoever's supposed to be speaking doesn't really matter. There's a quarter of a second to go, and the time starts now.
Every Valentine.
Well done, Sharon. She bore that one magnificently as well. I don't think I'll ever recover from that one. Certainly Sharon won't. Well, there's a very interesting situation at the end of that round because Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair are equal in second place, and they're only 1 point behind Tony Hawks and Paul Sinner, who are equal in first place. So we carry on. And Jenny, we're back with you to begin. The subject now is trash TV. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
My partner, who is not my husband, just the old man, likes to watch Road Wars, which is dreadful people driving appallingly. It amuses him, but when I drive like that...
Richard,
repetition of drive.
Driving and drive.
Oh, no, there wasn't. You're right, yeah.
Driving and drive, that's right. Richard, all I can say is that she's played the game a few more times than you have, and it's very... So another point to Jenny, 45 seconds still available, Jenny. Trash TV starting now.
My guilty pleasure is Made in Chelsea. The Only Way is Essex. Jeremy Kyle. All that rubbish I can watch for hours on end. But I pretend that I'm reading books. Under my duvet, I'm not. I'm just watching trash telly.
Richard, you challenge.
You keep your telly under the duvet.
So have you got a challenge with
I'm interested to know more about what she's doing with her television under a duvet. But it's true. I think it's a deviation from the truth.
No, she can have it wherever she wants it.
Yeah. And I tend to do so.
But it's too late now, but you did miss the repetition of watching. So, 27 seconds, Jenny. Still with you, another point. Trash TV starting now.
There's a lot of it, isn't it, on the television? And sometimes you think, well, the only answer to this is to throw my television out of the...
Tony challenged.
Repetition of television.
Probably.
In the title,
yes,
kind of.
Trash TV is on the card.
Yeah.
That's what I said.
Oh, so I'm not allowed to use the longer word?
Absolutely not. Not in this room.
Technically, we can only...
I was deviating from being amusing. You're most welcome to this round.
Right. Trash TV is with you, Tony, starting... And you've got 18 seconds, starting now.
I decided to trash my TV last year. I don't want to be subjected to endless commercials and all the rubbish that's on in between. It's not edifying for a man of intellect of my extraordinary proportions. I might sound a little bit big-headed.
So let's give you the situation in ascending order. Richard Herring is in fourth place, 1 point behind Paul Sinner, who's 1 point behind Jenny Clare, who's 1 point behind Tony Hawks. So it's very close as we go into the final round. And Tony, will you begin it with the subject here? Your word against mine, 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
Your word won't stand a chance against mine. Mine has been to the gym, is keeping very fit, and is fitted with nuclear warheads. So, should your word come up against it, there will be no battle, because it will be a foregone conclusion that mine will be the victor. How I can continue in this vein for another 40 seconds is a mystery.
Jenny, challenge.
It was a mercy challenge.
I was interested. Sometimes you just want to leave someone going and see where they'll end up, though, don't you? I wish we could have left you for a minute.
So have you got a challenge when the rules are just a minute? I agree with the mercy.
I just saw panic in his eyes.
He was keeping going, though. He didn't hesitate.
Yeah, I'm sorry, it's an incorrect challenge.
No. You can have a bonus point because we enjoyed the interruption. And Tony gets a point because it was an incorrect challenge. It's your word against mine, Tony, and there are 35 seconds starting now.
Imagine the court case Hawks against Cameron representing the government. He has accused me of deviating on just a minute. It's his word against mine. Who would the public side with? I don't think there's any doubt. A politician or a comedian, I still don't want to.
You had that audience transfixed with absolute rubbish. So, Paul, you challenge first.
It was a sort of mixture of hesitation and deviation combined.
Well, I was unclear who was the politician and who was the comedian as well.
Hesitation is right, Paul, and you're 12 seconds, and you take over the subject. Another point to you. Your word against mine, starting now.
Your word against mine, as I remember, was the original version of the hit television show Countdown. Filmed in 1981 with Richard Whiteley, the former mayor of Wetwang. People simply had to come up with a word.
So, Paul Sinner was then speaking as a whistle went gain, that all-important extra point. And I'll give you the final situation. Richard Herring, who's not played the game as much as others, finished in a very strong fourth place. Third place, actually, Richard.
Oh, good.
Because we have two joint seconds, which is Paul Sinner and Jenny Clare. But 1 point ahead was Tony Hawk, so we say, Tony, you are the winner this week. So it only remains for me to say thank you to these four fine players of the game, Tony Hawks, Paul Sinner, Richard Herring and Jenny Clare. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle most delicately when the time was up. We thank our producer, Talusha Gilani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're very grateful to this lovely audience here at the Spa Theatre in Bridlington. So from them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye, and tune in again the next time we play Just a Minute. Welcome to Just a Minute. Thank you. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons. And as the minute waltz fades away once more, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but around the world. But to welcome to the show this week, if we'd searched for the whole firmament of entertainment, we couldn't have come across four more exciting and talented and humorous persons. And once again, they're going to display their talent and their ability with words and language as they try and speak on the subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. And those four fine individuals are, seated on my right, Paul Merton and Gyles Brandreth, and seated on my left, Alun Cochrane and Graham Norton. Please welcome all four of them. Seated beside me, It's Sharon Leonard who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle. The 60 seconds is up. And we're going to begin the show this week with Graham Norton. Who better? Graham, the subject is things you should never do in public. That sets the mind racing. It is Radio 4, remember? And things you should never do in public, Graham. 60 seconds starting now.
I'm rather surprised that you, of all people, Nicholas Parsons, would ask me about things you shouldn't do in public. I understand it was a long time ago, and the court case was hushed up by the BBC. But still, it resonates with an audience here tonight. Sorry.
Gyles challenge.
Repetition of B.
Oh.
I beg your pardon?
Well, it's
BBC.
Oh, BBC. Oh,
BBC.
Sorry. Yes.
BBC.
Yes.
Also to protect Nicholas's reputation.
That's long gone.
But picked up on a repetition of B when we were hearing the most salacious gossip.
So, are you standing by your challenge?
Yes.
Oh, right, okay. You've won no friends with it, but you've got the subject. 44 seconds, Gyles, you take over the subject. Things you should never do in public, starting now.
Things you should never do in public: wave at strangers unless you actually are the Queen. Or smile in the street. You will get arrested. This, in fact, is how I first became acquainted with Graham Norton, who was standing bail for Nicholas Parsons. I would like to tell this story properly. The British Broadcasting Corporation has kept very quiet about it over the years, but the truth may now be discovered. It was a shameful incident because it happened in public, and things that you never should do in public include what this man was doing.
Pressure button. Paul Thomas.
I felt you wanted somebody to challenge.
I was getting very near the nub of the matter. Of course he wanted someone to challenge. He was hoping his lawyer would challenge.
So what was your challenge?
Deviation.
Yeah, that was the whole point. Deviation.
Complete and utter deviation. He also repeated the word public. Oh, it's on the card. All right. So, Paul, yes, you can have it, because I want this to be established. It was complete and utter deviation. Yes, you have 4 seconds. You have things you should never do in public, starting now.
If you go to YouTube, you can see Nicholas walking around St James's Park with his trousers around his ankles, and it's the most extraordinary thing.
You reach the age that I am, and you have no respect left.
They've all seen it.
Right. Paul, you were speaking as the whistle went. You get an extra point for doing that, and you've now taken the lead, which is not unnatural at the end of the round. Alun Cochrane, will you begin the next round? If I was a fairy godmother, that is the subject. Will you tell us something about it in this game, starting now?
If I was a fairy godmother, I would like to be fairy godmother to Richard Dawkins, as I suspect I would have easy days. I would turn up and say, "Hello, Dickie, would you like me to cast a spell and save you some time on that?" And he would say, "No, I don't believe. It's not scientifically proven. I don't understand a beneficent deity." And I would say, "All right, I was just going to stop you buttering your toast and dropping it."
Graham Norton challenge.
There was a hesitation, I felt.
Yes, there was a definite in the middle of one of your sentences.
I did say
Yes,
yeah.
Right. And so, Graham, you got in with the correct challenge, and 35 seconds are available. If I was a fairy godmother, starting now.
If I was a fairy godmother, I would certainly have let that poor creature out till at least 1:30, wouldn't you? Because 12 o'clock is very early, even for someone 15 or 16, really. I thought it was quite harsh. And also, wouldn't you organise a minicab to be standing by, just in case she was running a bit late? And because you can't really ride a vegetable all the way home. This she discovered to her cost. Also, if everything disappeared, why did the one shoe remain? If she was going home in rags...
So Graham Norton was then speaking of the whistle when, again, that extra point for doing so. And Gyles, it is actually now your turn to begin. And the subject is management speak. 60 seconds, as usual, starting now.
I recently attended the Funeral Directors Awards and was obliged to give out a prize for thinking outside the box. It is extraordinary the way management speak has now entered into our vocabulary. Blue sky guys, what is all this bollocks about? That's what I wish to know.
Paul Merton, you challenged 6 times.
Yes.
And what is
Well, I mean, just deviation from the proper use of language.
the language you use in just a minute? Yes.
Exactly.
But it's new management speak. They don't say this is an inadequate idea, they say this is...
Well, that's a hesitation, wasn't it?
We haven't started again, have we?
Paul, we're going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you have 41 seconds on management speak starting now.
It's one of those things where they used to say things like, let's run it up the flag and...
Giles, challenge.
Repetition of things.
Oh,
One of
yes.
those things, when you say those things, yes. So, Giles, you got it straight back, with another point, of course. 37 seconds, management speak starting now.
He has handled the tasks given to him within his limited capacity, meaning he is useless. Parameters, windows, extraordinary phrases to do with marketing and other things involving the brand image. I loathe every bit of it. On the train to Salford...
Alun, challenge you, why?
I just thought I should in case Gyles started swearing again. He seemed like he was warming up to turn the air blue again. You know what it gets like.
Alun, let's give you a bonus point because we enjoyed your interruption, but he didn't actually say anything within the rules of just a minute for which he could be challenged. 16 seconds, still with you, Giles. Management speak starting now.
The management speak at the court of King Claudius was along the lines of to be or not. That is the question, whether it is nobler in the mind to suffer.
Graham, challenge.
I've heard this before, I'm sure I've heard this before.
It's repetition.
Yeah, I'm sure I've heard this before.
Yeah, it must have heard it before.
Yeah.
But you haven't heard it in just a minute before, have you? No.
Oh, okay, then, yeah, sorry. My mistake.
So I must be fair within the rules of the game and say Giles has another point. A management speak is still with you, Giles. 7 seconds starting now.
The opportunity has gone away, they tell you, meaning they do not want you. They're not interested. They loathe and despise you.
Paul, challenge.
There was quite a lot of theys one after.
Yes.
They,
It was
yes.
getting a bit too personal and bitter, I agree.
They might get away with 1 or even 2 days, but...
No, I agree. I'm all up the spout with the medicaments. I can't even say medicaments. Paul, you speak to the people.
Yes. How long have I got to speak?
You've only got 2 seconds.
2 seconds. I will speak.
Right. Starting now.
Brian Ollocks walks into the room. A magnificent figure of a man.
So, Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle when gained that extra point, and he's taken the lead. He's just ahead of Gyles Brandreth, and he's just ahead of Graham Norton and Alun Cochrane in that order. So, Paul, it's your turn to begin. The subject is my first crush. Tell us something about my first crush. Starting now.
What a beautiful pony she was. I remember looking across the field and there being written on her was... Oh, no, hang on. No, I'll keep it to myself, thanks for it.
Giles, you came in first.
Self-inflicted hesitation.
Yes, right. And 54 seconds for you to tell us something about my first crush, starting now.
As you may know, I used to go out with Ed Balls' mother, Ophelia, who did not live up to her name. But truly my first crush was a girl by the name of Camilla Shand. And I met her in East Meon with her grandmother to see her astride her pony in those gorgeous little jodhpurs. Even at the age of 9, she smoked a fine woodbine. What a filly this is. You are going to go to Highgrove one day, I thought to myself, but maybe I could climb aboard your wee nag first and have a little bit of a cuddle. She slapped me down and said there was indeed a Brigadier Parker Bowles waiting behind the bushes for her. I thought this is a tender child, but has the possibilities of princess in her, and I thought I would linger in case the Duchess in me...
Paul Chance.
Have you signed the sex offenders register? Let's not dwell too much on this anecdote.
I agree. It's because I'm licensed by the London Borough of Haringey. I think I can get away with it. I do apologise.
What is your chance with the rules of just a minute, Paul?
Well, I just felt an urge to stop it, whatever it was. But, no, I don't know if I have got a challenge.
Well, it's a pity, because...
Repetition of...
thought, I think.
No.
He did repeat, I thought, twice.
Yes, you did. But you didn't come in, did you, Alan?
No, Paul got in.
So we're just telling Paul?
Yes.
That'll make
Was it
stop.
repetition of...
I thought.
Oh, yeah, repetition of thought.
Yeah, I thought.
But we were there, weren't we, with the young Camilla? We were there. We saw
Listen,
the
listen,
scene.
hang on, don't get me involved in this grooming conspiracy.
It was beginning to sound like an early Jilly Cooper, wasn't it? The smell
Right,
of
but I have to
mown
tell you,
hay.
Paul, you have only 1 second.
What?
1 second on my first crush, starting now.
Brian Ollocks was a hell of a man. He walked into the room.
So Paul Merton speaking again as the whistle went again that extra point. As he increased his lead slightly over Gyles, Brandreth, thence Graham, Norton and Alun Cochrane in that order. And Graham, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject now is shopping in 60 seconds, starting now.
Well, who doesn't like shopping in charity shops?
Alan.
Let me go on.
Alan, what was your challenge?
Him. He doesn't. He obviously doesn't.
Well, I could have said that if you'd let me.
Oh, OK, sorry. I'll
Right,
take
no.
it back. I'll let him finish his own sentences. Doesn't seem part of the game, though.
I know, it was an incorrect challenge. So, Graham, you have another point. You have 57 seconds shopping in charity shops, starting now.
A teapot with no lid, perhaps, or a set of 2 spoons. What a great gift to get anyone. You could wrap it in newspaper to make it seem even more special. There is an odd smell to the clothes in a charity shop, though, isn't there? I'm not sure what it is, and I don't like to ask. So you just move on. I do have a green jumper at home that I bought in an American charity shop, where, of course, there they call them vintage...
Paul, you challenged.
Sadly, hesitation.
There was a hesitation, yes.
I cannot die.
24 seconds, Paul. Shopping in charity shops, starting now.
I remember buying a green suit in a charity shop in Fulham Broadway, and it was absolutely horrible, but it only cost £1.50. And people would say to me, where on earth did you get that dreadful arrangement of jacket and trousers? And I'd say, it was an absolute bargain. I went into a charity shop and I saw it there hanging on the rails, and I said to myself, I'm the kind of man that can carry off that emerald. And indeed I was. As I wandered down the street that night, people said to me, are you Brian Ollocks?
So Paul Merton was speaking again with the whistle went again. The extra point has increased his lead at the end of the round. And Gyles, we're back with you to begin. The subject, traffic wardens. Didn't get a very warm response from the audience. 60 seconds on the subjects, as usual, starting now.
I was invited to a party at Clarence's house, and on the invitation it said, uniforms will be worn, which gave me an amusing idea to turn up not in possibly what Harry might have thought comical, something from North Africa, Kirka 1942, but a traffic warden's costume. I arrived and made myself the toast of the party.
Graham challenged.
Repetition of arrived.
Yes, you arrived twice.
I didn't feel I'd arrived at all. Arrive and possibly arrive. But that's the way it goes.
36 seconds. On you, Graham.
Don't worry, you'll get it back in a second.
Traffic wardens. Yes. 36 seconds starting now.
There seem to be fewer traffic wardens now than there were. I believe it's something to do with the introduction of that pay for parking with your phone thing, which is almost as irritating as traffic wardens. When there were traffic wardens and you met them, they always seemed surprised that you were annoyed they'd given you a ticket. I know it's their job, it's all they do in the entire day long. Have I said? No, I didn't.
Graham, you've challenged yourself.
It's me!
Graham's light came on, but he didn't press his buzzer.
Yeah, it's because Graham's light's been coming on when I press my buzzer. And, these people think I'm well rubbish. It's not my fault. I'm brilliant, but Graham's been mopping up all my brilliance.
I'm still coming last.
Yeah, I'm not that brilliant.
Well, give him a bonus point for what he's just said. We enjoyed that. And you've... what's your challenge on this one?
Well, he stopped speaking clearly. And,
Yes, right, he was hesitating, right.
And he was hesitating, yes.
9 seconds for you, Alun, on traffic wardens starting now.
Due to traffic wardens, I once bought a lettuce that cost £60.47. If it hadn't been for the Jobsworth that had spotted me parked on a corner...
So Alun Cochrane was then speaking of the whistle. Wayne gained that extra point for doing so. Paul Merton, we're back with you to begin. The subject is careers advice. 60 seconds starting now.
The careers advice I had at school was fairly rudimentary. A man just looked at me, reached up to the other shelf and pulled down a leaflet that said supermarket shelf filler if I were. It didn't have...
Gyles challenge.
Repetition of shelf.
Oh, yes, shelf filler. Is that one word?
It's... no. It's
No, 2 words.
2 words.
Shelf, yes.
Yeah, it must be.
2 shelf. 50 seconds are still available for you, Gyles, on careers advice starting now.
Don't ask me...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
No.
No.
Definitely not.
Really not, no.
49 seconds starting now.
I am the guy who actually told Carol Vorderman when she was 21 years of age, you have no future in television. What do I know about anything? There she is.
Graham Norton challenge.
Where is she now? Is she on television now?
She is the absolute loose women. She is the loosest of the loose women. They've doubled the ratings since she joined Loose Women. It's enormous. It's enormous.
Okay, great.
And Piers Morgan, she's with him next Saturday.
Oh, that's fantastic news.
She's going very, very, very well.
That's just brilliant. I must send her a card. How lovely.
So what is your challenge?
Because he was saying, where is she now? And I was going, where is she now? Because...
Oh, well, now you know.
Now I know, yeah.
So, an incorrect challenge. 39 seconds, Gyles, still with you. Careers advice starting now.
I do wish I had had some careers advice. I have felt lost for the past half-century and more. When I first encountered Nicholas...
Paul challenge.
You could stop. That's careers advice. He said he's not had any careers advice.
Yeah.
I'm giving him... Look at me when I'm talking to you. I'm giving him careers advice.
I'm trying to work out whether that's hesitation, repetition or deviation. It isn't.
It's purely insulting, probably.
It gets a bonus, but I keep the subject, I think.
No, it doesn't even get a bonus. 31 seconds, still with you, Gyles. You've got another point. Incorrect challenge. Careers advice starting now.
Incredible, but true. When I was just 19 years of age, I encountered the host of our program at a party given by Fanny Craddock, and he gave me the best careers advice I have ever heard. He said, do you drive a cab? If so, you've got a lift tonight, and I will pay you some money for it. He thought I would be a good person to be in a taxi, because I was a bit gabby then. Obviously, I've changed over the years.
Challenge.
Repetition of taxi.
No.
Repetition of drive.
No.
Repetition of...
No, he did say hire car first time.
Did he?
Yes, he did, didn't he?
I hope I did. I was trying.
Repetition of person. I don't know what.
So 7 seconds still with you, Gyles, on careers advice starting now.
Get on your bike. What sort of advice was that for Norman Tebbit to give the nation at a time when we were all struggling? I think it was cruel, though perhaps he was...
So Gyles Brandreth was then speaking when the whistle Wayne gained that extra point, and he's in the lead now with Paul Merton. Then comes Graham Norton and Alun Cochrane in that order. And Graham, we're back with you to begin. The subject now, hose pipes. Tell us something about hose pipes in this game, starting now.
Well, gardening is another one of my great passions. So it's a real thrill for me to be able to share some of my hosepipe knowledge with you. Do be wary, everyone, if you leave a hosepipe out on the grass. If it's warm and you turn the hose on, the water that comes out is quite hot. And it's a bit of a shock if you're trying to cool children down or a dog. I really would avoid that. No, seriously, it's not a good idea. Hosepipes are normally...
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
Yeah, he was. Yes, you pause, gather breath for the next thing. So.
No, fair enough. No, fair enough. I'm not as fit as I was.
You went for nearly 30 seconds. Wow, yes.
If I'd buzzed in now, I'd be finishing. Wow.
I know they'd love to hear more from you, but I must be fair within the rules of just a minute. Say, Paul, correct challenge, hose pipes, 28 seconds starting Now.
It seems the most guaranteed way of inducing rain in this country is to announce a hosepipe ban. As soon as this has been put across the airwaves, you will find the water coming down from the heavens in huge amounts, gallons upon quarts, emanating all over the grass. It's a magnificent sight. My hosepipe was presented to me by Prince Charles on the occasion of my OBE at Buckingham Palace, when he leant over to me and said, "We run out of medals, but this bit of plastic will do." And he handed me...
So Paul Merton then, speaking as the whistle Wayne, gained that extra point and has gone into the lead again ahead of Gyles, Brandreth, Graham Norton and Alun Cochrane in that order. Alun, we're back with you to begin, and the subject is how to enjoy the rush hour. 60 seconds starting now.
How to enjoy the rush hour is a conundrum that has been puzzled for many years by mankind. But one way that I like to enjoy the rush hour is to not rush and enjoy seeing people who are stressed, nervous, anxious behind their wheel, trying to drive up people's backside and they can't get anywhere. Schadenfreude is the key way to enjoy the rush hour, or to listen to Radio 4 and enjoy Just a Minute, or many of the other...
Paul Towers.
Well, I thought there was a hesitation, but actually there wasn't, perhaps.
There was actually.
There was.
I give the benefit of the doubt to
yes.
Alun. Say, carry on, Alun. 33 seconds. How to enjoy the rush hour, starting now.
Taking an enormous amount of uppers is one way of enjoying the rush hour, and driving like a maniac whilst eating a Marks and Spencer Simply Food sandwich, picking your nose on your mobile phone. These seem to be ways that many idiots try to enjoy the rush hour. I don't like those people myself. I'm a very conscientious...
Paul Charles.
Tradition of people.
The tradition of people, yes.
Yeah.
The idea of somebody sitting there doing a sandwich, picking his nose and having it all at the same time
They're disgusting, aren't they?
Unbelievable, wasn't it?
Disgusting. These people. Disgusting.
Paul, correct challenge. 13 seconds. How to enjoy the rush hour, starting now.
The rush hour was something I was well used to when I did the 9-to-5 job at Tooting Employment Office. I would get a tube train on the Northern Line, Morden, South Wimbledon, Colliers Wood, Tooting Broadway, ditto Beck. I would get out there and I would wander down the road.
Paul Merton was then speaking as a whistle winner, gained that extra point, and he's now, as we move into the final round, he's 3 or 4 ahead of Gyles Brandreth, who's a few more ahead of Graham Norton and Alun Cochrane in that order. And Paul, we're back with you to begin, actually. The subject is the 70s. Tell us something about the 70s in this game, starting now.
The 1970s was a rather extraordinary decade. If we look back on it now, it seems to be the bridge between the 60s and the 80s. Who would have imagined that would have been possible then? The 70s had a whole myriad of musical talents working in that particular decade. Everybody from the Sex Pistols to Emerson, Lake and Palmer, 2 different kinds of...
Giles challenge.
Emerson, Lake and Palmer, the cornerstone of their career, began in 1963.
They didn't form till 1969.
But they were still going strong in the 70s.
Their heyday was the 70s, the early 70s.
Well, it doesn't matter if it was a heyday, they were still going strong in the 70s. Absolutely. So, Giles, it was an incorrect challenge. So, Paul has it.
Before my time, anyway. I mean.
The 70s is still with you, Paul, starting now.
We see the rise of the skinhead and rastas, and amongst the youth there was an extraordinary burst of energy that was seen as the punk.
Graham challenge.
A repetition of extraordinary.
You did use about the extraordinary before, yes. Well, listen, Graham. 34 seconds are still available, Graham. You tell us something about the 70s, starting now.
I grew up in Ireland, so the 70s here I observed through the television, because none of it really got to us in the Emerald Isle. It was like really living in the 1950s. When...
Giles challenge.
Repetition of really.
Oh, yes, a couple of realists there, yes.
I can only apologise.
Don't apologise. Giles is delighted. 20 seconds are still available, Giles. Tell us something about the 70s, starting now.
70s, Nicholas, what was it like, the 70s? That's the question I want to know from you, because I am on the brink of
Alun challenged.
That's going to really change the game if Nicholas starts answering the questions. I don't like to come across like Mr. Rules, but there is a system in place. And it's been working for years and years and years. So I don't think we should challenge it.
I love your
too
interruption, Alun. I think it deserves a bonus point.
OK,
because the audience enjoyed it as well. But have you got a challenge within the rules of just a minute?
No.
No, right. So Gyles keeps the subject to another point for 70 seconds starting now.
Will I reach the 70s? This is the question that my wife keeps asking me in the company of her toy boy.
Graham challenge.
I just want listeners to know this isn't an old repeat that's going out. This is a current show. Just because they might think, gosh, this must be an ancient show. You know, they must be... Yeah.
I'm sorry, what's your challenge with the rules at this minute?
Shall I write it down and pass it to you? I don't want to be rude. But...
He's implying that I could almost be in my 70s. That's what he's trying to say.
That's kind of...
So, I'm afraid, incorrect challenge. So, Gyles is still with you.
You can win at this rate.
I know. 4 seconds, starting now.
Oh, said Mr. Edward Heath when he became Prime Minister in 1970. What a remarkable leader he was.
So, let me give you the final situation. Alun Cochrane, who gave great value, and we enjoyed having you, Alun, but you did finish in 4th place. But it was a magnificent 4th place.
Thanks very much.
But only 1 point ahead of you was Graham Norton. Great value as ever, Graham. Loved having you around. Paul Merton and Giles Brandreth, who played the game quite a lot. Huge rivalry. And it's quite fair to say they both finished up equal in 1st place. So we had joint winners. So we do hope you've enjoyed this edition of Just a Minute, and we'll want to tune in again the next time we play this amazing game. It only remains for me to say thank you to these 4 fine, humorous, outstanding players of the game. Paul Merton, Giles Brandreth, Alun Cochrane, and Graham Norton. I thank Sharon Leonard, who helped me keep the score and blown her whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. We are indebted to our producer, Claire Jones. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game, and we're grateful to this lovely audience here in the Radio Theatre. So from them, from me, Nicholas Parsons, and the team, goodbye. Tune in the next time we play Just a Minute. Yes! Welcome to Just a Minute. Hello, my name is Nicholas Parsons, and as the minute waltz fades away, it's my huge pleasure to welcome our many listeners, not only in Great Britain, but also around the world, but also to welcome to this show 4 talented, interesting personalities who are going to display their gift with language and words as they try and speak on a subject that I give them, and they try and do that without hesitation, repetition, or deviation. Seated on my right, Tony Hawks and Paul Sinner, and seated on my left, Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair. Please welcome all 4 of them. And sitting beside me is Sharon Leonard, who's going to help me with the score. She'll blow the whistle when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And this particular edition of Just a Minute is coming from Bridlington, and we're part of the Arts Festival up here, and we're now in front of a lovely audience in the Spa Theatre, who are going to cheer us on our way as we begin the show with Jenny Eclair, and who better? Jenny, oh, the subject so apt. Grim up north. Listen, there's nothing to be ashamed of about being grim up north. You are stoical individuals in the north. Think of the weather for a start. And you have 60 seconds to talk on that subject, Jenny, if you can, starting now.
This is a phrase that makes my blood boil and the hackles stand on the back of my neck. How dare you utter those words while here in God's own country we are basking in the beauty of Bridlington. Though I must say, when I went to Manchester as a drama student back in '78, it was like living in a Lowry painting, filthy dirty, toilets out the back. I stayed with this bloke one night. He said, if you want to use the lavatory, go out the back door. Got the front and the rear doors, backs to front, went out...
Tony, you challenged.
I think there might have been hesitation in there.
There was definitely hesitation.
I was suddenly thinking my mother might be listening to this.
So in this game, whoever gets the correct challenge gains a point for that, takes over the subject. In this case, it was Tony Hawks. There are 22 seconds available. Grim up north, Tony, starting now.
I imagine people in the United States of America say it's grim up north when talking about Alaska. And that would be a nicer way to approach this subject when you're in the north, as we are now. It's very cold there, there's a lot of ice, and worst of all, they have that woman Sarah Palin knocking about. very rarely having a tea party.
That whistle tells us the 60 seconds are up, and whoever is speaking at that moment gains an extra point. Of course, it was on this occasion Tony Hawks, who is the only one to have scored any rounds. No, the only one to have scored any points in that round. Only one to have scored any rounds in that point. And that's what I said. Alliteration. The audience didn't understand a word I'm talking about. I don't really understand myself. I have difficulty understanding what I say on occasions. I have difficulty listening to myself on occasions. And that difficulty is now communicated to the audience, and they say, what the hell is he talking about? I wish I knew.
Nurse!
We move on to the second round. Richard, we'd like you to begin it, and another Yorkshire phrase, by gum. You don't have to pronounce it like that, but you can just say by gum if you want to. And there are 60 seconds available as usual, starting now.
By gum was a short-lived advertising slogan created by Wrigley's trying to sell their product in the north of England, but the people here did not enjoy that. They found that was patronising. They said, by gum, we do not say by gum here. The only person who says by gum is Compo. When he's in Last of the Summer Wine, he's in a bath again, coming over the top of a hill, about to fall into another bloody pond, and then as he gets drenched, as he falls into that body of water.
Right. Jenny Challenge.
I only interrupt because you said as he twice. I wouldn't have done it on an as or a he, but the two combined, the as he
Why'd you go for the bath? That was quite obvious. Anyway,
That's on the
it
card.
was a repetition. Jenny, there are 29 seconds. You've got a point for a correct challenge. By gum is the subject, starting now.
By gum. That's what old ladies in the north say when they see something that surprises them, as Richard has so
Tony, you challenged.
I think another hesitation.
Another hesitation.
But I said it really well, didn't I?
You did.
But Tony, it was a correct challenge, so a point to you. 16 seconds available. By gum, starting now.
I had a friend when I was at school who had the nickname Gum, and whenever he used to depart, I would say, by gum. He happened to...
Richard challenge.
I think it was a hesitation, and he's also lying.
We don't know that, it doesn't matter.
I am prepared to work through the census
Anyway.
in the Brighton area if there is anybody called Gum.
It was a nickname.
Richard, anyway, I'm not going to give it to you because
No.
I don't think he paused long enough to interpret it as a hesitation. So the benefit of the doubt to you, Tony. If I can redress the balance later to you, Richard, I will. 8 seconds available, Tony. By gum, starting now.
He was bisexual as well, so we called him...
Paul, you've challenged.
He was a school friend. He hadn't really thought through his feelings by that stage in his life. Deviation.
But we don't. He might be quite correct in what he said. So the benefit of the doubt to you, Tony. And there are still 5 seconds available. By gum, starting now.
In real life, I've never actually heard a person say by gum. I wonder whether it's a fiction created by writers in screed.
Jenny challenge.
It's not. He's deviating from reality. It is something people say on Last of the Summer Wine.
That's true.
Also, if I could just
exactly
add,
my
according
point.
to his true statement earlier, he himself said by gum every time his friend went away. So how has he never heard anyone say it when he said it himself? I put it to you, this is a tissue of life.
So Jenny had a correct challenge. She gets the point. Richard gets a bonus point for the fact the audience enjoyed what he said. And there are 2 seconds still available. Jenny, by gum, starting now.
By gum, there was a professor.
So at the end of that round, let me tell you that Richard's got a point. Paul hasn't got any points. Jenny's got 3, but out in the lead is Tony Hawks. And Tony, we'd like you to begin the next round. The subject is my legacy. Tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now.
When I die and the £45 billion fortune I leave behind from having performed on this show over 100 times and saved it all, I will invest in a fund to replace with people the electronic self-checkout devices that they have in... I'm not stopping. In supermarkets. Because we're all...
You've been challenged, Tony.
Oh.
Yes.
Right.
I thought he hesitated,
He did hesitate.
in a word. Within a word.
Within a word. You get a bonus point.
No, it doesn't matter about that, but he did hesitate. So you've got the subject and a point, of course, and you have 42 seconds. My legacy starting now.
I will be leaving the nation a tome of books that I have written, some plays. My daughter would rather a house and a car, but tough. I have also given her bad eyesight and self-flagellation, but there's the rub. And I was actually thinking of donating my home to the National Trust. What a kind thought. Come to Camberwell. See a 3 up, 2 down. There's a bus stop opposite. No room to park a coach. The old man will show you round. This is the study where the toad wrote her rubbish. Would you like to look at a grey rim around the bath?
Well done, Jenny. No, that's the longest we've gone on the show, but nearly 45 seconds.
What
Well
was
done.
fantastic was Paul's face. Just looking at me to say, it's rubbish. She's talking rubbish.
It wasn't that, it was the phrase self-flagellation. I was trying to work out exactly what you meant.
Us declares are very hard on ourselves. It's a sort of thing.
And what have you done? You're still in second place, catching up on our leader, Tony Hawks. Richard and Paul Sinner are following in that order. And Jenny, we're actually back with you to begin. And don't know what you're going to say about this one. Taming an elephant. Tell us something about taming an elephant. I'm sure it's something you're very familiar with. And 60 seconds starting now.
Taming an Elephant is the title of a play Shakespeare was writing at the time of his death about a very fat girl who was incredibly jealous of her slim sister about to be married. Fatty rolled on top of her sister and two sisters.
Richard, you challenge.
It's a repetition of Sister.
Yeah, the sister, right. You went off on something there you couldn't believe.
No.
Absolutely. 41 seconds. Richard, it's with you. Taming an elephant starting now.
Taming an elephant is a quite simple procedure because the elephant is terrified of the mouse. So all you need to do is get some mice, put them in the same room as the elephant, and the elephant will do whatever you tell it.
Tony.
How do you get the elephant in the room?
You had to be the one to point that out, didn't you? No one else wanted to talk about the elephant in the room. You had to point it out. We were all ignoring that.
No, it was a very good challenge as well, but I'm going to give the benefit of the doubt to Richard and say he's still got taming an elephant. 28 seconds, Richard, starting now.
If you are taming an elephant, it's very important to start young with them when they're small so you can get them into your house because there's no point in having them outside. So you take them...
Paul challenge.
They're essentially already tame at that point. There's no real point. It's only really the adult elephant that you need to be concerned about. The baby elephant is tame and dependent on its parents.
I think that's a good challenge, Paul, yes?
A baby elephant taken away from its parents...
So mad.
Would be crazy. It would be more dangerous than an adult elephant, I think. A baby elephant you've ripped from the bosom of his family.
We're going to dinner. Let's chat about it over dinner.
Paul, he also
didn't
said
specify
them
what
4
age.
times.
And you didn't say that his mother was standing around at the same time.
Okay.
So you had the benefit of the doubt last time. Paul's definitely got it this time. And he's got 18 seconds. Taming an elephant, Paul, starting now.
Taming an elephant seems such a treacherous activity that I can only hope it is the task on week 9 of this year's Apprentice. How I will laugh and smile and otherwise amuse myself.
Richard challenge.
I think there's some hesitation there.
There was a hesitation, so you've got it back again, Richard. And you've got 4 seconds on taming an elephant, starting now.
You will find if you tickle an elephant underneath its trunk that it will do anything you tell it. It's very true of men as well, as it happens.
Richard, you weren't challenged, but there are 2 deviations there. You can't tickle an elephant under his trunk and he'll do anything. So what was the other thing you said?
Well, we don't want to go into that.
Anyway, Richard was speaking to the whistle wind. He's moved forward. He's equal with Jenny in second place. They're 2 points behind our leader, Tony Hawks. And Paul is bringing up a magnificent rear. And, and we're on to Richard. We'd like you to take the next round. The subject now is snooker. Tell us something about snooker in this game starting now.
Snooker, loopy, nuts are we, sang Chaz and Dave shortly before they were institutionalised. But I loved playing snooker as a child. I was, of course, brought into the game by shows such as Pot Black, with Ray Reardon, the Dracula.
Oh. Paul challenged.
The 6-time world champion was known as Ray Reardon. So there was a, whatever you'd like to call it, hesitation, really.
Yeah, no, who was Rear Ray? That's what I want to know. And how did he get that moniker?
Deviation from the correct name. 47 seconds, Paul. You've got a correct challenge and you have the subject. And it's snooker starting now.
I suspect there may be crossover with me and Richard on account of us being similar ages, because I loved snooker ever since the 1980s. The sheer characters, the sheer personality.
Oh, yes. Tony, you
Yes, there are a couple of shears.
Yes. So you sheared in there with 37 seconds, Tony. Snooker starting now.
I watched it in the 70s. I remember Ted Lowe saying once, he's trying to pot the red, and for those of you watching in black and white, it's just behind the blue. Which was a tremendous moment in my life, and how in my family we laughed. 40 minutes or so, I think it was. It's a tremendous visual sport. I watch it sometimes thinking, how are the people sitting there in the...
Richard's
There
challenge.
were several hesitations, but that was the most noticeable on a stumble on people.
Richard, don't be so condescending. There were not. There was one, and you've just got him on that last one, which was a definite hesitation. And so, Richard, you've got him with 11 seconds to go on snooker, starting now.
Because I had no friends and my brother and sister were older than me, I spent a lot of time in the early 1980s playing snooker against myself. I would...
Jenny challenged.
Did you say 1980s previously?
No, that was Paul.
I'm sorry, I take that back.
Any other questions you would like answered?
Give me a clue.
And I don't do that programme, I'm sorry. Incorrect challenge, Richard. Another point to you. Snooker, 3 seconds, starting now.
There was Hurricane Higgins, Jimmy Whirlwind White. I was the very strong breeze.
So Richard Herring, speakers of Whistle Wayne, gained that valuable extra point, and he's moved forward. He's 1 point behind our leader, who's still Tony Hawks. Jenny's following Richard, and Paul is following Jenny. Paul Sinner, we'd like you to begin the next round, and the subject is a DVD box set. Can you tell us something about that subject in this game, starting now?
Every Christmas comes the dilemma of what to buy your parents, especially for me, as my mother and father have everything except grandchildren, and I'm physically impossible of providing that. So there comes the choice, what to purchase for them.
Jenny challenge.
You're not physically incapable of providing them. You're just not that way inclined. That's nothing to do with that you said...
This is probably a conversation for another time. There's only one role for a turkey baster at Christmas, and that's...
You have a correct challenge.
Thank you.
Paul, your response was so enjoyable, the audience laughter proves it. You give him a bonus point. So, Jenny, you have a subject, 46 seconds on. A DVD box set, Jenny, starting now.
My favourite DVD box set at the moment is 30 Rock, starring the wonderful Tina Fey, Alec Baldwin. How funny this show is. All the cast are tremendous. If you want a really good laugh, I can totally recommend.
Richard challenge.
On a really good lark.
Laugh? I said laugh.
I think it came la.
Oh, Richard, stop being pedantic, please.
That would never do in this
She said
game.
laugh. And if she didn't say laugh, it sounded as close to laugh as you can possibly get. You're doing extremely well, so don't get carried away, please. Jenny, incorrect challenge, 30 seconds, a DVD box set starting now.
I also love the box set of adverts from the last 20 years. My favourite stars Linda Bellingham.
Tony challenge.
I think she said favourite the last time when she was talking about...
Yes, that was the favourite the first
well
time.
Spotted, well
yes,
spotted, well played,
listened,
Tony, well
yes.
done.
That's how you play the game. That's how you play the game,
So, Tony, you got in with 22 seconds to go on the DVD box set starting now.
I like to take a DVD box set and balance it on the edge of a bin, then go to the other end of the room and throw things at it and try and knock it into that litter place. And it's tremendous fun. You can do this for 30 minutes or more sometimes and still keep the enjoyment factor right up there. If you want...
Jenny challenge.
Hesitation.
It was a hesitation.
It was rubbish, but I was...
So Jenny got in, and there are 5 seconds to go, Jenny. A DVD box set starting now.
There are a lot of Scandinavian box sets around at the moment, which many of my...
So Jenny Clare was then speaking as the whistle went, gained that extra point, and she's moved forward. She's now equal with Tony Hawks in the lead, closely followed by Richard Herring. Ooh. Tony Hawks, we're back with you to begin. The subject is, I have to make a confession. There are 60 seconds for us to hear that, starting now.
I have to make a confession. When I came up on the train today, the man next to me was making so many phone calls on his mobile that I had no choice but to kill him. And this is...
Richard challenged.
I think it's deviation from the truth. There's a little pause, but if he did that, I don't think he would have admitted it on the show.
Well, I think he was giving a sort of fantasy thought, but he did pause anyway.
Yeah.
So, Richard, benefit of the doubt, 46 seconds for you. I have to make a confession, starting now.
I have to make a confession. When I was on my way up here, I was at King's Cross Station. It's all been refurbed. It looks amazing. There's a toilet there. You have to pay 30 pence to go and visit. It's insane. But I noticed that a woman came out of a gate that was unlocked, and I just walked in through that without giving King's... Should I look right at you?
Hesitation?
There was a hesitation,
well, just
yes.
to prevent a repetition.
Absolutely. And I was trying to think, if you haven't got 30p handy and you're in a rush, what do? Just wet your knickers or what?
It used to be a penny as well, didn't it? That's the thing. You should be allowed to have 30 wees for that. They should give you a season pass.
So, Paul, correct challenge. You have a point for that. 26 seconds. I have to make a confession, starting now.
I have to make a confession. Despite appearing on Radio 4 any number of times in the last few years, I have never listened to quote, unquote. It is a shocking confession to make, not least because when I was a kid, people used to swap counterfeit tapes.
Richard challenged.
Well, he challenged me on a pronunciation earlier, and he didn't say counterfeit correctly there. I won't say what he did say because I don't think it's suitable for broadcast on Radio 4.
And I don't think that challenge is suitable for just a minute. You're doing so well. You're on a high now. You're challenging for sort of thoughts and emotions now. Paul, an incorrect challenge. You still have the subject. 11 seconds. I have to make a confession, starting now.
I have to make a confession, despite being a fan of the work of Richard Herring, the comedian, and not being unaverse to being...
Jenny challenged?
Unaverse.
Unaverse.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah,
that means you're reversed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Jenny, you've got him with 4 seconds to go on the subject. I have to make a confession, starting now.
I have to make a confession that once upon a time I told a boyfriend that my hair was naturally...
At the end of that round, Jenny Clare was speaking as a whistle went, gained that extra point. She's gone 1 ahead of Tony Hawks, he's 1 ahead of Richard Herring, and he's 2 or 3 ahead of Paul Sinner in that order. And that is the sequence as we're back with you, Jenny, to begin. And the subject now is a quick exit. 60 seconds starting now.
The last time I made a quick exit was from a swimming pool where I spied down the shallow end a child's small turd. I got out of that place as quickly as I could. Possibly not as fast as the last...
Tony challenge.
Well, how do you know it was a child?
Tony, we love the interjection. We give you a bonus point for that.
Oh.
But, I mean, I think her supposition was probably from the size. She assumed it.
Well, look, it could have been a Dachshund's that was wandering around, fell into the pool.
Dachshunds don't go to public swimming baths. No. So, Jenny, you've got the benefit of the doubt. You have a quick exit. 42 seconds starting now.
I did this corporate in a hotel down Park Lane. I absolutely died. I made such a quick exit through the kitchens onto the street, leapt onto a oh, so sorry, so sorry.
Paul challenge.
Hesitation.
There was indeed, Paul.
Yeah.
So you have the subject and a point, of course. 29 seconds still available. A quick exit starting now.
I would say coincidentally, although it isn't, because all comedians have this experience, I too have made a quick exit from a gig. Again, a hotel in Folkestone this time, where I saw a child's small turd.
Richard, use challenge.
There was a hesitation at the end of that, but it was just a repetition of what Jenny said.
Yeah, he's just copying.
No, Jenny's was in a swimming pool. His was in a... 17 seconds for you, Richard, on a quick exit starting now.
When I was a child, I was swimming in a pool, and I felt the need, a call of nature, as it were, came to me, and I knew it would have to happen fast. So I made a quick exit, both literally and then from that body of water, hoping that nobody would spot me and see what I had done or measure the said piece of feces that...
Right, so Richard, you cleverly kept going to the whistle, went and gained a wonderful round of applause from the audience in the process. We're moving into the final round. I'll give you the situation as we do. Paul Sinner, who did so well the last time we were here, I don't know whether you remember, because it was some time ago, of course, and he's now only a little way back in fourth place. No, third place, because we have equal in second place, Richard Herring and Tony Hawkes. But out in the lead, just 2 points ahead of them, is Jenny Clare. It could be the ladies' day. Paul, it's back with you to begin, and the subject is winning a competition. 60 seconds as usual, starting now.
As one can probably see tonight, winning a competition is something very unusual for me, and yet it has happened on one occasion. I'll cast your mind back to 1981. We all remember it, the Croydon Under-12 Chess Championships. I was seeded third at the time. There was great press presence there. The local press...
And Tony's challenge.
Yes, I think repetition of press.
Mm-hmm. Yes, there was. Indeed. So, Tony, a correct challenge. Another point. 42 seconds still available. Winning a competition starting now.
While we're talking about our childhood achievements, I managed to get to the final of the Under-12 Sussex Closed Tennis Tournament, but did not win that competition. I know you can hardly believe it, but there was a bloke called Jeremy Dyer who did stuff me on that particular court that day. But
Richard, challenge.
Do we really need to know about what he did to you and the intimate details on the court? I'd best get back to how the competition went, not the after-show celebrations. That's what I...
So have you a challenge?
That's the deviation. He went away from winning the competition to talking about what?
No, he didn't. He did repeat that. You could have had him for repetition, but it's too late now, I'm afraid.
Sorry.
So, Tony, an incorrect challenge. 23 seconds, winning a competition, starting now.
The wonderful thing about Just a Minute is it doesn't matter whether you win or not. It's all about competing and, as Nicholas Parsons, our esteemed host, says on so many occasions, fun. And we have had it in the barrel load tonight. I certainly have been here calling out to people, so I don't know.
So, Paul, you challenge first to West.
Oh, was there a hesitation?
There definitely was. So you've got the subject, and you've got a point, of course. 6 seconds still available. Winning a competition starting now.
I am spending a beautiful summer evening in front of wonderful people in the lovely town of Bridlington. I have already won the greatest competition.
Paul, I'm going to give you a bonus point because you brought this show to an end with such a flourish and in such style. That round of applause you got deserves an extra bonus point. You haven't won, but but you came from nowhere because you were training at the beginning, and you're now equal with Richard Herring in second place, and you're both only 2 points behind, equal firsts. They're all almost equal, but two have come out on top, and... That's Tony Hawkes and Jenny Clare, so we say joint winners this week. It only remains me to say Thank you to these 4 fine players of the game, Tony Hawkes, Paul Sinner, Richard Herring and Jenny Eclair. I thank Sharon Leonard, who's helped me with the score, blown her whistle with such style when the 60 seconds have elapsed. And also we're grateful to our producer, to Lucia Gilani. We're indebted to Ian Messiter, who created this amazing game. And we're truly indebted to this lovely audience here at the Spa Pavilion in Bridlington, who've cheered us on our way and made us feel so warm and loved. Thank you so much. From us, from all of us here, and me, Nicholas Parsons, goodbye, thank you, and tune in the next time we all play Just a Minute.